Well, welcome, everybody. I just want to let you guys know that you are here at Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking, and we're here for another great show and another great episode. Tell you, I'm having so much fun doing these interviews and meeting a lot of interesting people, talking about a lot of great topics and a lot of interesting topics that I think need to be talked about and brought to light. So I just want to thank you all for, always tuning in, checking out my interviews, giving me some comments and feedback. I super appreciate it. And I'm just having, as I always keep saying, I have a great time doing this. I really enjoy interviewing people. So it's a lot of fun. And, you guys make it happen too, because I do it for you guys as much as myself. I really enjoy what I do here. So thank you all for being here. Just a little bit of house cleaning to let everyone know. If you do enjoy my show, you can also check me out. I'm on a radio station that's twice a week at Revolution Radio, which is at freedomslips.com. I have two shows. I have one on Saturday evening from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., Studio B, Eastern Standard Time. And then on Monday evenings, I'm on from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m., and that's Studio A, and that's also Eastern Standard Time. So definitely check it out. A lot of great hosts there, a lot of great content going on there, and it's pretty much 24/7, all listener supported. So please check it out if you can. I think you guys will really enjoy it. But that's about. Oh, and also I should tell you guys, I'm also on Rumble too. That just recently happened. So if you want to check me out on Rumble, please go like, share, subscribe over there. Rumble, whatever they call it. I'm very new to it, and that's Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking, all one word, and you'll find me there. Already got a couple interviews posted up there, so definitely check it out. But let's get over to what we're going to be talking about today. Now, as most people know, I've already interviewed Stephen Sanzeri a couple times. We've done a part one and a part two, and then we did a little bonus clip where we looked at some a cartoon and that. And so a lot of people listening here definitely know who Stephen Sanzeri is. Wrote a great book, which I keep telling you guys to get, and I'm going to show it on camera here just to show everybody. There it is, right there. Ultimate Prey: The True Story Behind the Yosemite Sightseer Murders. This book I've read almost 3 times now. It is that good, and it's a book you have to read a couple times because there's so many moving parts in this. And so there it is. Check it out. I'll leave a link so you guys can pick it up. And it's a great book. Great read. I super enjoy it. So definitely check it out. But I also have another great guest that I'm going to be introducing too, who is has an amazing story to tell about this case. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring my guest in here. I got Stephen Sanzeri with me. Hello, Stephen. How are you doing today?
Hey, Crypt. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being here. And then we also have a new guest who I haven't had at the Crypt before. We have Rhonda Dunn, and she's not on camera, so we're just going to be hearing her through audio, but we got a little profile picture up in the corner there. But I mean, I'm just happy that you're here, Rhonda. Welcome, and thank you for coming over and having a chat with us today.
Oh, thanks, Rick.
It's great to have you here. So, I mean, I've talked to Rhonda a couple times now, a little bit chatting and stuff, and then we did a phone where we talked for about an hour on the phone and that. And I tell you, Rhonda, your story is amazing, and as I was telling you when we were talking, I said this story has so many moving parts when you start digging into it, and it's an incredible story. And so when I got to meet you, and thank you, Stephen, for introducing me to Rhonda, because I mean she's got a great story that we're going to hear about. So what I wanted to ask you, Rhonda, is let's let people get to know who is Rhonda Dunn. Give us a little bit about who you are, and so people get to know, just a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I was born in Central Illinois, and I've been a respiratory therapist for 37 years. And not married. I have a boyfriend, no children. Just living the American dream, hanging out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do too. Live the dream for sure. So now, I mean, now where I want to start with is how did this whole, where did this start for you? Was it a trip to, definitely a trip to Yosemite National Park. So can you take us back to how this all began for you?
Yes. My mom's brother lived outside of San Francisco, and actually he just lived a couple blocks from Steve's mom at one point. And he had a job there for 40 years at the airport. He was head of maintenance for United. So he gifted us with 2 tickets to come out to California. And so we came out that summer for 2 weeks, and my mom always wanted to go see the redwood trees in Yosemite National Park.
Right.
So
Go
we
ahead.
were staying with my aunt. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect. Keep going, dear. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So my mom kind of had it what she wanted to do. So we went to places like Monterey, John Muir Woods, and we had a week free. So we were going to go over to Yosemite for a week. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we headed out on a Tuesday morning by ourselves, and we had my uncle's car. And I went through Stockton, I went to Oakdale, I stopped at a Hershey plant, did some tours. And we didn't have a reservation in Yosemite, but my uncle said just go over to the west end of the park. There's some bed and breakfasts. You can get a place to stay just by walking. And he said there's a welcoming center right when you go into town to look there for some pamphlets and find somewhere to stay. So that's what I did. I drove into town. There's a four-way stop, and I saw the welcoming center straight ahead. I walked in there, got a couple pamphlets, and so I proceeded out the door, and I went over to the gas station across the street from the welcoming center, and I bought a diet Snapple. And a man did come in the gas station after I got gas, and that was Cary Stayner. He didn't talk to
Wow.
me. He walked up behind me at the refrigerator and got a lemon Snapple. That's how my mind works. I just am a detailed person.
For sure.
He didn't
Yeah.
say anything. Um, I paid cash and walked out the store. And so I started heading down the road to where I had some pamphlets. And so the first stop was the Cedar Lodge.
Okay. Now,
And that
one
was,
sec, Rhonda. Let me just. I just hearing a little bit of echo. Are you listening to anything in the background, Stephen, or do you have volume turned on, or any, or do you, Rhonda? Just because I'm hearing an echo, I don't know who it's coming from. And I.
um,
I turned mine down a little bit.
All
So
right. I'm
yeah.
not. Yeah. I'm just trying to hear if it's Rhonda or not. Let's see if that's any better. It could be. It could have been Stephen, Rhonda. Just I was getting a little bit of an echo, so I don't want to. I want to make sure everybody can hear you really clear. So, but I think it's
Sure.
gone away. I think that
okay. Are you
that
good?
okay. It sounds to be. I'm not sure if it's you. Do you have any volume on? I don't think Rhonda has any volume on either, so it shouldn't be
Oh,
picking it up. All right, so we'll try it. We'll continue. I think it's all right. It sounds a little bit better. So let me just. I just want to make sure everybody can hear really good and hear your story. So we'll take off
okay.
from where you left off. You went go by yourself with a Snapple, and you run into Cary Stayner and
Yeah.
take it from there.
And
So
the reports were like every day, this guy, there was no Snapple at the Cedar Lodge. So he drove into town 26 miles to buy a Snapple. So that's the story I got. And that
wow,
is all he bought at the store when saw him in the store. And so I proceeded on out of town, and I remember I was listening to country music, and all of a sudden it was a baby blue and white International Scout illegally passes me on a curvy mountain road, and I'm almost forced off the road at that point. He recklessly passes me on a curve where you couldn't see a car coming head on. It was really a reckless thing he did, and he was speeding, and I was like, dang, that guy's like a bat out of hell. What was that? And just then I remember the radio station changed to a religious channel, and it was a woman pastor, and she said, do you believe in miracles? And then I look ahead and I see Cary Stayner speeding ahead, and I swear to God, he looked like the devil when I looked at him from the side when he was right beside me. He
right.
looked just like the devil, man. It was crazy. And his Wagoneer looked like a something from the 60s, like a hippie would use, to live in.
Oh,
That's
okay, yeah,
It was like a big Suburban, but it's an International Scout wagon, but it's a big car, and
right.
it's in like a 69. So he's speeding, and so I go on down. I pull in the Cedar Lodge. I didn't see his car or nothing weird. We went in, and my mom, she had researched this. This is the second week in July that it takes a year to get a reservation at some of these hotels.
For sure, right?
So
Yeah.
she walks in, and the lady goes, oh, I have a cancellation. I'm going to put you in this room, 219. And so you guys can stay. And here's the weird part. My mom walks back to me in the car and says, well, this is really strange. We got a room. She goes, my mom says, I wonder if we're being set up for a robbery. Like
Well,
that.
yeah, like nothing like a little bit of gut feeling and
My mom's like, this
intuition.
is too easy. This is the first.
Exactly, right. And you're right too. Like I mean, I would imagine at that time of year, you're not
Yeah.
just going to pull in and just be handed a room. Like they must be booked up like months and months ahead of time.
Years. My mom checked. It's like a year in advance.
And they just
And so
happen to have a room.
my mom's very suspicious. And I'm like, oh, mom, calm down. Somebody probably did cancel. I'm like, just forget it. We're going to go to this room. So this is the other weird thing that happened. Right when I pull up to that room, guess who's standing all around that room? I see like Paul. I see this guy that works there named Daryl Stevenson, who's a sex offender. I see a girl that looks like Rachel Lou Campbell. And these guys are just hanging out, smoking cigarettes out by the room where I just was put in. Okay. So I thought
That's
that was
creepy.
weird. And these people are sketch. I'm like,
That is
so
weird that they're standing there now. Just to let people know, because that haven't been there. What is the Cedar Lodge like? What is your when you pull into the Cedar Lodge and you see it and you're
mhm.
inside that? What is your take of it? Is it a nice place? Is it a classy
Yeah,
place, or is it like what is your
yeah.
first
It's
thoughts of
not
it?
cheap. It's a mid-range place. It's not super expensive, but it's not trash.
Right.
And it looks nice. They have wood carvings. It's log, it's log cabin style looking. And the grounds
Sounds
are all well kept. So yeah, the place from the outside looked good.
right. And
And
then
then
what are these guys that you when you see all these guys hanging out smoking cigarettes? Give people an image of what they look like. Like are they
they
sketchy
look
looking?
biker type, long
Biker type.
hair. Yeah, greasy hair, wife beater shirts, blue jeans, t-shirts, sketch.
Well,
They look like bikers, just people that I wouldn't be,
that you wouldn't want to
not
be
my
hanging around.
clientele.
Right, and so
No,
do you get a bad feeling from them when you see them? Like, do you at this
yes,
point do you have a gut feeling like this is trouble, or do you
it's
just not
trouble.
even pay attention?
I was trying not to pay attention to them, but I have good ears and and this got really weird. As I'm unloading the luggage, my mom's a minister, by the way. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom's not into these type folk.
For you,
This is the kind of people my mom tries to bring to the Lord. Okay. So, um, anyways, I'm looking and I see Cary Stayner's car pull into the Cedar Lodge and park not far from my car, but I guess where the employees park.
right,
So he parks his truck, gets out, and these guys say, Cary, come here. And so then I knew his name was Cary.
right.
And I heard him say, oh, yeah, we're going to take care of her later. And I hear like these kind of conversations. And I'm like, well, if they're talking about me, I'm kind of, you know, too smart for them. They're trick bag. That's what I was
Right.
thinking. Like I could outsmart these guys. So remember I told you I've traveled extensively before this, traveling, selling ventilators all across America and
Right.
Canada.
Yes.
So I've been traveling by myself for at least 5 years at this point. And
You've
so I
got a
told
little
you,
bit of experience with this. Like like you
yes,
just that's probably where this gut feeling in that you get. It's just experience traveling so
right.
much. Like you just kind of pick up on things.
So I tell my mom I'm going to move the car. And I told you why you do that. You never park your car in front of the room on these motels where they can kidnap you. They got your room number, they got you, and say that you were never there and you're just gone. So I already knew not to park my car there. So I move my car way back to the front desk thinking, oh, those people are normal. I can trust the staff at the front desk. Lo and behold, everybody becomes sketch, here.
Right. Right.
But I didn't know that at the time. So I parked the car at the front entrance. And that was like 2 buildings away from where I was staying. And then I walked past my room a couple times and then backtracked to the room. Because that way maybe they can't remember what your room if they're just observing you.
Right. Right.
But I didn't know that these guys are, bad news. I mean, I figured it, but I didn't know yet what was going to happen. Yeah.
Right. And then so now you obviously you get your room and how long do you stay at the Cedar Lodge? Are you there for just a day or are you there for a week or how long were you planning on being
Well,
there?
we could have been there a week, but um, we only signed in for one night, but
Right.
we didn't tell anybody that. And so, yeah, we were supposed to be there a week. So the first the first few minutes become pretty sketch. So I go get the car, and then I pick up my mom back at the room, and we go into the park just to forget about, see if these guys will go away. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Like they're just locals; they'll disappear,
Yeah, and you're
right?
just trying to go and have a vacation. You're not really paying too much
Yeah.
mind to them at this point. Just trying to forget about them and go on and have a good vacation.
So I'm pulling out. I see a Mariposa Sheriff's car pull up to these guys. This is no joke. And he starts chit chatting with these guys. And they're laughing. And I could tell the sheriff knew these folks. So I knew they were locals because he was having conversations with them. So I was like, oh, so they are locals. So then I pull out and I go into the park, and it begins, we look at a couple of waterfalls and stuff, and it begins to rain. So I head back to the Cedar Lodge, and this is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
So I go back. I don't see these guys. They're kind of dispersed at this point. So my mom goes, I really don't want you walking around because we saw those guys. I want you to stay in here. I said, well, I'm just going to go get, I saw that at the front desk you can rent some movies. So I go, I'm going to go rent a movie. So as I walk to the front desk, Cary Stayner is there, and he opens the door for me. And I got this, he didn't speak, but I caught a side eye, evil look out of his eye, out of the
Right.
corner of his eye. You know how people give you the side eye? Like,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's
so I
not.
got a real mean side eye from him, but he didn't speak. And I was like, well, that guy's kind of a jerk, you know?
For
So
sure. Yeah.
I get my two movies, and again I'm leaving, and he holds the door so I can. You had to get the VCR too, so they didn't leave him in the room. You had to carry it. So I had a lot to carry. I had the VCR and the two movies to carry, and it was heavy. They're old.
Hmm.
Back in the day.
Yeah, those great big ones that weighed about 50
Yeah,
pounds. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm carrying that. Yeah, he didn't offer to carry it, but he did hold the door.
Well,
So,
okay. I mean, at least he did something nice, right? I mean,
yeah. So I'm back in my room, and yeah, it was just weird that he showed up twice now. So I'm noticing that this guy keeps showing up. So yeah, I just went back to my room, and my mom was like, just stay inside. So I didn't go back into the park. We went for dinner, and this is no joke. We're in the main lounge area for dinner. Cary Stayner walks by my mom, and it's like she made a face, like squinted her nose and goes, oh, like she smelled something bad. Like she goes, oh, and she got a really bad vibe from him. I remember him walking by, and my mom goes, oh. And I said, what's wrong with you? And she goes, oh man, there's a bad vibe in here. And I was like, oh mom, calm down. The one thing about my mother and I, when she would be freaking out, I would be talking her off the ledge. When I was freaking out, she'd be talking me off the ledge. So we were never freaking out together. Yeah.
somebody was always like helping the other. Like that's cool though. That's really cool. That's it's funny, but it's cool.
Yeah. So and when he walked by the second time, I had, on the way back from the park, I had seen a river rafting, and I said, oh yeah, I'm gonna go river rafting tomorrow, really loud, like to let people know I'm gonna be here tomorrow.
Right.
And my mom kind of whispered, she goes, do you think we should stay? And I'm like, I'm just letting them know that I'm going to be here so they don't try anything. That
Right.
was the plan. Was I spoke out loud that I'm going to be somewhere tomorrow, so I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, so people could hear you, and that's
Yeah.
smart, right? So they know that you're going to be around.
Yeah.
Smart.
So my mom's still freaking out. She goes, oh, I can't. She got the weirdest vibe in the dining room. And after interviewing people, a lot of people say that place is just off in the main dining room. Like it's haunted. There's something eerie about it. And I've heard that from numerous people about the main dining area. Like
Right.
maybe it's haunted, or there's a bad vibe in there.
Did you
And
get
even
that? Did you
Francis
get
Parent.
that vibe from any other area, or was it just the dining room? I'm always curious about that. Like if it's a room or the whole property. Was it just that room that really set your
The
mom
whole
off?
property.
Okay.
I got it from the whole property. I got it when I walked into Mariposa at that gas station. It's like I walked into the Twilight Zone. Boom. I walk
Wow.
out of the gas station, everything's weird. And that's because Cary Stayner was in the gas,
So
he
it's
had a
a presence
bad
following
vibe.
him. Yeah, like a bad, evil presence following
And
him or something.
when I would look at his silhouette of his body, all I saw was black. I couldn't really make him out. Everything was always black.
Really?
And he had a weird thing about him. He'd probably been on meth, so he was losing a lot of weight. He had on these khaki shorts that would swish because they were so big on him. And every time I hear material swish, I go, oh, I hate that noise. Yeah.
Oh my God! Like I can ask you, Stephen, before just what Rhonda was saying that with Steve, when you like, do you get like, did you ever get vibes off of these guys? And now, like, what was your take of them when you saw them? Like, what, like, are these just bad drug dealers? Are they meth heads? Like, what do we like? I'm just trying to let people get an image of what these people look like and the presence that they kind of like, what they emit, like that presence that they have.
You know, back when I was chasing Cliff Watkins in '95, when Dennis Wyckoff and I got arrested for the so-called breaking the guy's neck, and that was 4 years before, is when we pulled into Mariposa, and Rhonda will tell you there's a 76 station on the left-hand side, and there was
That's where I was.
it was like a '69 orange Camaro, and this is 1995. I mean, this car stuck out. It was a great-looking car, and we pulled down to go get pizza after the bounty on Cliff Watkins, and that car cut us off, and that's when I jumped out with my 380. But it's like listen, we know from the past the cops and the dirtbags are in it together, and
Right.
it's like the dirtbags are like their little seeing eye dogs in this town. If anything happens, they go right out to the sheriff and all these guys, and then they set people up. And
Exactly.
Rhonda's exactly
That's
right.
what they're doing to me.
There's a feeling in that town, and you know it's been 20 years, and I just did that deal with that. We're gonna say big platform like Netflix. That when I went back there, and I never stayed to Cedar Lodge, but there's a feeling around there she's describing, and it's just like it is a Twilight Zone there, and it has been, and it is, and you know they killed their own deputy, we go through all that kind of stuff. But where Rhonda was getting the brunt of it because that's when these guys were at their peak. Okay, you got Candler as the ringleader, Rhonda will agree. You got Dykes and you got Stayner. And Stayner was a pussy. You know, we know that. We talked about that. But Dykes and Candler were pretty bad dudes. And with Cliff Watkins, he ran the whole show. He told me where they were hiding the drugs, all that kind of stuff. So they're very brazen, and they got a lot of confidence of running around in its own little microcosm of called Mariposa. They think the whole world is surrounded right there in that little town.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's easy to think like that when you have the police protecting you, is what you guys think. We'll get into that.
Right.
And I mean, from the evidence all the research I've done on this case, and I remember when Stephen first told me to start checking into Mariposa, when and then he's like, we were talking about his book, and I said, I want to interview you about the book. And then he's like, you have to look into Mariposa deeper too. And then so I did. And then I was just like, that's a whole new topic. I was just like, wow, like Stephen really stepped into something here, like so incredible stuff. But it does, thank you, Stephen. I just want to get your take on it too, because I just like for people to get a feel of what this felt like. I mean, I get goosebumps when I think about how Rhonda's describing it.
Everybody gets goosebumps but me.
Right, well, yeah. I know, like, and it happened to you. That's the crazy part. But it's just so.
Well, I was meant to live, and I was meant to tell the story. So
it's true.
For some reason, I had fear, but I knew that. For some reason, my mom says too. She goes, you know, we were really close to losing our lives, but you know, we just walked through it. It's like walking through the shadow of the valley, you know.
In the valley of the shadow of death. Yeah.
Death. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, go on with your story.
Hey, Rick, let me say something.
Sure thing. Go ahead.
When I sent you those drawings from Stayner, Babes in the Woods, remember?
Yeah, we did it. We did a video. It's up on my YouTube channel.
Babe, like I said, the little baby was Rhonda, or possibly Joey. It wasn't Julie, because I just saw it, but by the camp spot, and Rhonda will tell you how they kind of follow her into the woods and stuff, is that those three devils were targeting her. And Candler was the leader, but Stayner's the devil that kept running back because he's the weaker of the group.
Right.
You know, they used him because he worked there and everything else. and had the inside track, and they get to the managers to set people up in their rooms and stuff. But what she's exactly right is that that's almost like the most beautiful sanctuary, the second national park in our system in the nation, beautiful place, is a gateway to hell.
Yep.
And the town El Portal means the gateway to hell. That's what it means. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Wow. Jeez. Okay.
Yeah,
And
it's
we
a
did
port-
find
It's a portal. It's a portal.
it's a portal, and we did find evidence. Mooney and I found evidence. There's a strong occult in that area, and there was some occult practices up behind the Cedar Lodge that the FBI found where they were, worshiping the devil. I saw a lot of occult demonic drawings on bathroom walls in not only Mariposa, but in Angels Camp, Sonora. So there's a group of occult people working in that area. Yeah.
For sure, and that's what I remember in one of the last interview I did with Stephen. I was asking him, like, did you look into the occult aspect? Was there occult activity going on? And even Stephen said definitely there was something shady going on there for sure, like with the occult.
Yeah.
And
So they were worshiping, and they had a place up in the hills there that they found.
right.
And yeah, they were, and like I said, when I called the FBI, I didn't use that word stalking. I called them, they were lurkers. Like Steve said, they have all these little soldiers in town in the report. So you can tell when they're looking at you and they're like, oh, there she is. And they're like little reporters going to report to somebody bigger. And
Right.
that's what I told the FBI. It's like, I called them lurkers. I said, yeah, but where I was going, they were lurking.
Well, yeah.
I don't know
And,
they're
and
right.
do you think that it stems from the Cedar Lodge? Is that like, do you think that's kind of like their hub where they kind of target their
Yes.
victims, or do you think that do you think that their targeting starts right from when new people go into that town? Like, do you think that's when they
Well,
start checking things out, trying to find their next victim? Like,
I
kind of
told the FBI because of the 76 stations right there, like Steve talks about, and the welcoming center, that I think Stayner went there to scope out. He could see from the 76 station what girls were at the welcoming center, who's coming
right.
into town.
Yeah, yeah.
So he
It
was
sits
a
above the whole
reporter.
town.
Stayner was reporting back to these guys, yes, but he wasn't the main guy because he could have kidnapped me at 2 points before I got to the Cedar Lodge, and he didn't talk to me. He did almost run me off the road, but he's just a reckless person.
Right, right. Yeah. Wow, that's so creepy that they could have like a town scoped out like this, and then and then at the Cedar Lodge and stuff like that. I just try to put myself in that situation. I'm just like, knowing that innocent people are going there just for a vacation, and then right from the time they get to that town, and then they get to the Cedar Lodge, or they probably have all. I don't.
Yeah.
Did you ever find out if they had other areas scoped out, like Stephen or Rhonda? Did you guys ever find out if they had the whole town scoped out, like all these different people kind of keeping an eye on things, or was it just seemed to be hubbed around the Cedar Lodge area?
The Cedar Lodge was called the Speeder Lodge. It was where the speed freaks traded their drugs. And
Okay.
Mooney said that was the name that they called it, the locals. And if you're in law enforcement, you could see them just loitering, exchanging drugs, being on drugs,
Exactly.
causing problems. And I see a squad car just chatting with them. I'm like, this is really off, Mom. I said, I'd be arresting these fools,
Exactly. Yeah, like I would have definitely known something was up if I saw them just
Yeah.
chatting and laughing. I'd be like, okay, now
Yeah.
my gut feelings have some merit. So I didn't. Go ahead with your story, Rhonda. I'm just trying to get people into the feel of the area and the people.
Well, for
Well, I
Rhonda,
can tell you right now.
Go ahead, Steve. 1 sec, Rhonda. Go ahead,
Oh,
Steve.
I was going to say, Rhonda, tell him who Mike Mooney is. You keep saying Mooney, but Mike Mooney with the Modesto Bee. Tell him first
All right,
who he is.
perfect.
So Mike was a crime reporter for the Modesto Bee. He'd been covering the case, and I've been following him online, right? And he looks like a young Richard Dreyfuss in Jaws, the marine biologist with the red beard, the
Oh, right.
glasses.
Yeah, I remember.
That's how Mike Mooney looks. He's just kind of a docile guy, real nice, humble guy. And he really kind of led me through this whole shenanigans. And, you know, he was like an angel sent to me. And then Steve was the dark horse sent to me. Yeah.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, I mean, amazing. So, yeah, go ahead. Now we know who Mike Mooney is. Yeah. So, yeah, that's great, Steven. Thank you for bringing that up because it'll let people know the people that we're talking about, because that's the one thing I was telling you, Rod. Like, even when reading the book and that, there's so many names that
Right.
it's hard. That's why I'm on my third read. I'm just about done. I'll finish it today for my third read. And that's God's truth. I've read it 3 times now,
Yeah.
just because I'm writing notes and there's so many moving parts and names. And
Right.
so, yeah, I'm glad that I have Stephen on to break it down, and then definitely having you on is amazing. I'm so thankful that you're here. So go ahead and just continue with the story where we left off, like wherever you want to take it from there.
Okay. So we went to dinner. We come back to the room and it's getting dark and I'm feeling weird. Okay. I got to take a few steps back.
Okay.
6 years before, in 92, I was driving to Chicago on a Sunday afternoon. A girl's car breaks down. She dropped her brother at Northwestern. She's going to school in Iowa. Her car breaks down. I see a trucker pick her up, and she ends up being killed that afternoon, and he was a serial killer. So when I contacted the FBI about what I saw, they said, I told them, you know, this girl, I saw her at 3:15. They go, well, she was dead at 5:15. It's a serial killer. He drug her body and they start telling me all about serial killers. And I am like freaking out, going, now I got to go buy a cell phone because I drive back and forth this 2-hour drive every, you know, few months. I want a cell phone now. So in
Right. That's
92,
your
you had to
job.
buy the
Yeah.
big,
Traveling
you had
is
to buy
what you
that
do.
big bag phone and plug it in your cigarette. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, those big block. Yeah, I remember the big battery. Yeah, I remember those. Oh my God.
So after knowing this girl was killed and nobody reported her missing till she missed school the next day, I told the FBI, I said, I check in when I get to Chicago with my mother, and I'm 26. And they started laughing at me. I said, yeah, well, I'm alive, aren't
Exactly.
I? And
Yep.
I'm getting a cell phone now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's smart. Check in, like let people know.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, okay, go ahead.
So 28 years have gone by. That case still remains unsolved. Drives me crazy. She had a specific MO and nobody solved the case. And it's been 28 years since I saw that girl disappear on that roadside. And I never forgot it, you know?
Yeah, wow. I wouldn't forget
And-
that either. I wouldn't either.
So we're in the lodge. I'm thinking we haven't told anybody where we're at. So this is like a PSA. Don't call from where anybody can hear you. My mom was near the door where they were kind of loitering out there.
Right.
And she called my uncle and said, we're having a problem with these guys. Where can we go? And he told us to get a room the next day over in Sonora. And Steve knows that's the town over from where he was living.
Mm-hmm.
So we were going to drive over there and get a room, but we were going to go early in the morning, shoot out of there real early in the morning. And then she goes, oh, by the way, I think I'm going to stop at this meadows called Tuolumne Meadows up in the park before we get over there. So my mom said where we were going out loud for the next day. And that was a big, big mistake.
Right. I'm kind of surprised that your mom would do that, because as you were describing, she's kind of a paranoid person and really cautious, but yet she's just talking out loud about where you guys are going to be going. I just find that really funny.
And I didn't realize that they could be listening, because the FBI always asked me, how did they get the drop? And I said, my mom was talking on the phone and they were outside and they could have easily heard that, because the walls were paper thin at that place. I noticed they were very thin. Yeah.
Right. And that's probably why they loitered around that area, right? Because it's where everybody's coming in and out. People are talking, not thinking about it, and they're just getting a lot of crosstalk. Then it's perfect for them.
Yeah. And the FBI always asked me if I used the lobby phone, because apparently Carol must have called her husband from that lobby phone, and people can listen in at that lobby phone. I said, no, it was a private phone in the room, but it was near the door and they could have heard her.
Right.
And I'm certain they heard her, actually. But I wanted my uncle to know what was going on, and what, you know, if something happened to us, where we were last seen was at the Cedar Lodge. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to that's perfect. I just want to let people know, like, keep it flowing. That's perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm sleeping and I'm having dreams like these guys they look like they had black vests on and white t-shirts were in my room. And it was really weird. The next morning when I woke up, like all my jewelry was off. And I was like, was I dreaming? There was these men in my room, or I was like, is this place haunted? So yeah, there was a weird vibe in my room that night. It was
Wow.
a really strange dream. And these guys looked scary. There was like 3 to 4 of them I saw in my dream, So I wake up, I'm freaking out. I'm like, it's real early in the morning. We're getting out of here.
Right.
So
I would
I
too.
went and got the car, threw the luggage in. My mom checks out. And Cary Stayner, I remember him. He was hanging back behind my mom, listening to what she was saying. And I didn't think anything of it. The meth heads were out front in their trucks, they were still up all night,
So
okay?
they were still partying. Oh my God.
At 6:30 in the morning. There was like 3 to 4 four-wheel drives there, and they were all, high and drunk and smoking and wild. I mean, yeah, it was just like that movie Point Break, where they're all surfers, they're all,
Right. That's a
yeah.
great movie, by the way. Sorry, I just.
Yeah.
Oh, great movie. Yeah, I love that
Yeah,
movie.
so they look like those type folks. They look like they don't have jobs. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of girls with them too that were all drugged out too. So I kind of like honked the horn, like, yeah, see you fuckers, and you ruined my trip.
See you
And then
later.
I told the FBI, I checked the rearview mirrors. None of them followed me. I'm certain that they didn't follow me listen to this, the right way into the park. There was a back way into the park through Foresta, and that's where Joey's cabin was. And that's where these guys sped up and caught up to me, because there was a shortcut in the back way of the park, and they had 4-wheel drives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I come in
Incredible.
the front way, and my mom still wants to go to these meadows. So I get out of the car, and I see this blue F-150 coming down, creeping down towards us. And they both look, rough. They look the same type folks. They look rough, but I did not see that blue F-150 at the Cedar Lodge. It was not parked there. I did not see it come from the Cedar Lodge. So that blue truck came from somewhere else.
Okay. Okay.
Then it goes on by. So I wait for them to go on by, and I get out of the car. I was like, those guys look scary, but they went on by. So I said, well, we'll go on down to this orchard and look at these trees. So I had camcorder with me. I had pepper spray, and then just my mother walking. So as we're starting to walk into the woods, it's getting creepier and weirder. And I keep looking around to see, like, what is that? Like, something's really freaking us out. So we get heading down a ravine, and then this got really weird. A deer stood on the path, and my mom kind of pointed at me and said, "Let's get out of here. This isn't right." She said, "There's something really wrong. Let's get back to the car."
Right.
And just then the deer kind of looked at something in the woods, and I hit the camcorder button, and that's when I did get a photo of Cary Stayner in military fatigues hiding in the woods. I caught
Really?
that on, yeah. When the FBI reviewed it, I had pictures of him in the woods there.
In full
So
camo. So he's in full camo fatigue, and they're
yeah,
definitely at this point. They're stalking you. Like there's no doubt
right.
now. After you see him in the
So
woods, all camoed out.
we're trying to remain calm though, and back then you didn't have a fob to get your car door open. I had to have the key straight in my hand
Right.
so I could hit the car door right, hit the locks, and we can get in and lock the doors. That was my plan. So, but on the way back, my mom, she had been through cancer treatment. She was a breast cancer survivor. She starts moving her vocal cords the wrong way, going, because she's starting to freak out and panic.
Right.
And so I'm trying to talk her off the ledge again. I'm like, Mom, breathe. We got to breathe. We got to get to the car. Just calm down, breathe. So I'm dragging my mom at this point. And that's when I told Steve I slipped, and I ended up herniating a disc and ripping a muscle in my hip. So now I'm really struggling with my mother. And I just got the car door open. She got in, locked the door, and then we see Stayner emerge from a ravine, but he's back in his clothes, like a maroon shirt, shorts. He's not in fatigues now.
He's first you get him on camcorder. He's in full camo, and then a couple minutes later, you're trying to get quickly to the car with your mother, and now he's in normal clothes again.
Yes. And I see something shiny go down the front of his pants, because the sun was coming up in the east, and I could see something reflect, and that was this big knife that he had. So I'm already seeing a weapon. So as I'm trying to spin the car around, here comes that blue truck again, that F-150,
Right.
and it had a unique lift kit in it that you put in yourself, so it was really high up. It was lifted at least 2 blocks,
Right, a lot. Yeah, I know. I have a family member that's got those lift kits, and they
Yeah.
go up really high. You're right.
So it was really high. He pulls in front. I'm like, great. Now he's in front of me going real slow. And then I can see in the rearview mirror, Stayner stops at there was another vehicle there, and it was a brown Jeep. And I think Dykes or somebody had this Jeep. One of these other guys had the Jeep. Stayner put something in that Jeep, but then his car, he had parked it next to me. Okay.
Okay.
So he was going to take me right there and get me into his vehicle. That's what we figured was his
Right.
plan at the time.
And are you
But
are you and your mother panicking? Like now you see this big truck, the F-150
yeah,
with the lift, pull up in front of you. They're kind of like, it seems to me, trying to box you in a way. Are
they
you and your
boxed
mom
me in exactly.
Right? Are you and your mom panicking right now, or are you still trying to be calm and think
My mom
clearly?
opens up a Bible under the dash and is bent over reading some scripture, praying in tongue. When my mom does this, it's really bad. Something bad is really going to happen.
Well, yeah. Wow.
So I'm just pretending to look at her talking. And you know how you got your ball cap on backwards?
Yes.
Every time something bad would happen, I would turn my ball cap around like in that movie, Every Which Way But Loose. Every
Right.
time there's trouble, I would flip my Calvin Klein hat around. And then I would just start talking because I have a lot of years of critical thinking. So I have to stay calm. So I'm trying to get the tag number off the truck, but I can't look at it because they're looking at me in the rearview mirror,
Right. Right.
So I can't put eyes on them because they would know. I was just acting oblivious, like I'm a blonde, and I'm like
Right, like
talking
yeah,
to my
like nothing's
mom.
no, everything's normal and just not
Yeah,
which probably that could have would be what saved you too. Who knows that you were just
yeah.
not
So
panicking and you were just kind of going on, but you did know what was going on, but you kept your cool, which
yeah,
is
we
amazing.
knew what was going on, and my mom, she starts. Like I said, once she starts praying out loud, that's bad.
It's
Like,
bad news.
yeah. So yeah, she's in full blown panic, so I notice up ahead there's a truck turnout because we're on a mountain road and it's real narrow and you wind around the mountain, and so I see a truck turnout, so I gunned the car into the truck turnout and illegally passed them from the left, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
And I go, wow, and they got that old Ford and they can't make it up the incline where the truck turnout was. But my uncle, I don't know why he did this. He put a V8 turbocharge under the hood of a 4-door Ford Taurus.
Wow.
So I don't know. This car had a lot of power. And I was like, wow, this car was moved, And then, so that's how we were able to pass them on the incline. But I did a side view. I saw Dykes. I saw a sawed off shotgun sitting on the front seat of that cab. And then I just hauled ass. Then I just was speeding and I was just driving crazy at that point. I'm just like, I'm out of here.
Well,
Yeah.
let me say something on this too. With Nancy Lawson in my book, she was raped by Dykes when she was 15. And after she was raped, he raped another gal and he'd put a sawed-off shotgun to her head. So when Rhonda said that, it's absolutely true. That's how these guys rolled.
And yeah, like that. Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
coincidence by any means. And
No.
Yeah.
and Steven, so when the last little bonus footage that I posted on my channel, we were looking at the comic books that he drew up. And do you think this is what he was drawing? Was what Rhonda's describing?
Yeah. He
Yeah,
was.
yeah. Because like I said, it wasn't Julie because they captured Julie, Carol, and Savina, but it was Rhonda and Joey Armstrong that he would chase into the woods, and that's what he was drawing.
Right. Yeah. Those that comic's so creepy. Like I was telling Rhonda that
Well,
when we were talking.
he draws the angel and stuff. And, I've had 2 friends that know nothing about the case said that the Lord intervened in our lives. They said, on a mountain and you're being dragged to a cabin. So I always know there was some place that they would take these girls to because 2 people that don't know anything about this case mentioned that they had a vision of me being dragged off to a cabin. And they said the trees are really big because one guy lives in Honduras. He's never seen pine trees or redwoods. And the other guy lives in southern India. He's never seen redwoods or pine trees. And he described the trees. Yeah.
And yeah,
that possibly was Candler's sister's house he burnt down by Moccasin, where Julie was found.
Wow. Yeah. And
yeah, because that's between Yosemite and Sonora and 120 108's right there. And that it was Julie's body's a quarter mile from Candler's house by water on Lake Don Pedro, his sister's house. And when Rick and I went there, it was torched. And that day after it was torched, Candler called me when I had him out on bond saying the cops were after him. They think I burned my sister's house down. He was totally guilty on that. But Candler was the ringleader, and they used that house where it was staged where they would do whatever they could to whatever people.
Wow. Yeah, and then I remember in the third panel of the comic that you sent me that it shows the cabin and trees and stuff like that. So It's amazing that Rhonda had people that didn't even know about the case, and they're describing the trees and the cabin. Like, that's not coincidence. Like, there's something weird going on. Like,
I always believed I got away on my own. And they said, no, the Lord sent the deer to stop us from going to the orchard. They said that God was meant for you to live. And they said, we saw you on a mountain marching for justice. So this is probably for a lot of people that didn't get justice in that county.
Right.
And, the place almost burnt down. And I called Steve one day. The ring fire was real close to my post. And I said, oh, yeah, all the sin and all the church, all the godlessness people and the drugs. I said, I think this place is going to burn down. I think God's going to burn it down. And we were just kind of like, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. And what I wanted to ask you, this is something I wanted to ask you and Rhonda and Steve. Now, I do a lot of research. I have been for years on the missing 411 cases where lots of people seem to be going missing in these national parks. You kind of hear a little story about it, but they never really follow up on it. And they kind of just sweep these stories, a lot of them, under the rug. And I just want to let the people listening know, like, definitely look into Missing 411. There's a couple documentaries on Amazon, I think. There's 411 Missing and then 411 Missing the Hunted. And there is a lot of people that go missing in these parks. Now, do you think, and I know this is just speculation, but do you think that some of these cases could be tied to these guys or what they're part of? Or what do you guys think?
I wrote down for you, Steve knows these people. Serial killers don't always act alone. Charles Ng and Leonard Lake killed like 25 people up in Calaveras County.
Speed freak killers. Yeah,
these all were speed freak killers in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these speed freak killers killed all these people. And I looked, Herzog committed suicide on death row in 2012. Shermantine's still alive. He was a speed freak killer. They were caught in 99. They think he's killed 72 people in California.
Wow.
Charles Leonard Lake, they killed 25 probably, and Stayner didn't act alone, so they were speed freak killers as well. You know that, yeah.
Right, they were. That's the whole thing is that they don't act alone. And when you want to talk about Tuolumne County, you're talking about David Pilates in 411. He does.
Yes.
Former LA cop, everything else. I just listened to him. He has a new one out coast to coast with Idaho, and I knew about that case. And he even mentions Yosemite murders in that, but they got the aliens did this, and there's a portal, and there's all these beliefs. And I'm I don't diss them, but it is like look up the Nina Mayo out of Hawthorne, Nevada, who drove up to Tuolumne County, and they find her car, her keys, her camera, her purse, but she's not there. So it wasn't a robbery, or they would have taken that stuff. And then there's also the gal a few years ago that owned a restaurant in Twain Harte, which is right there in Tuolumne County, and they didn't find her either. So yeah, these guys go out there. I don't know what they do with the bodies, but they don't find them. And so most of these disappearances are drug induced, motivated meth guys. So if you find them missing, that's what it is. And people say, oh, there's no tracks, this and that. The weather changes every day up there. It's hard to get a track on somebody, their footprints, whether it's whatever. So most of these are drug related disappearances.
Right. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's I just wanted to get. I remember when I was reading your book, Stephen, and I was and then talking to Rhonda about all the cases that people go missing in these parks. I was like, I definitely got to ask them about the 411 and if they think that there's some cases that are definitely related to these guys. Like, so you guys think that these guys have been doing this for a while? This wasn't Rhonda was definitely not the first
Right,
or
Right.
anything like that.
Oh yeah,
So
no,
there's a
they
girl
do this.
missing from the year before. Her name was Vanessa Smith. She was
Right.
15. She walked out alone. I sent you the clip.
Yes.
So I knew from talking to Mooney that the desk clerk or somebody at the Cedar Lodge changed the son Smith to Smith, and that is a taunt. Stayner and those guys like to taunt the police, but the police didn't pick up on that message. But Mooney and I did. I said, "Yeah, Smith, Vanessa Smith." I said, "They're telling us that they killed her." And so when I called the Modesto PD, they gave me a bunch of grief. And they said, "No, it's somebody closer to the family." I said, "No, it's not." I said, the reason he did it was because they picked him up on marijuana charge the month before, and he likes to taunt the police. So in Merced County, he took that girl to taunt them and killed her. And then there was a pen pal living by me, and we got some information that he sent us, said that you'll never find her body. There's a bunch of bodies somewhere buried out there, he said. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And but back to the Cedar Lodge for just one sec. Do you think that there was more people involved at the Cedar
Yeah.
Lodge than just these guys out in the front? Like we know those characters, but do you
Yeah,
think
let me go
anybody
through the
like the staff was involved? Or, like this was a
yeah.
whole thing? Like
Yes. So I'll do like a roll call. The night shift clerk was involved. Her name was Becky Buttermore. She was a meth user. She stabbed her boyfriend to death in an argument, never was charged. She was the lady that checked me into that room, and she was involved with these guys.
wow.
Okay. She died shortly after of apparent, heart attack.
Right. Well, yeah, and all these people seem to get either double tap
Yeah.
themselves in the head with a gun, suicide, or
Right.
heart attack, or drive off the road, or
So they looked to see if if somebody had overdosed her. They couldn't tell. It was just ruled an MI.
right.
So then in 2009, the other night shift clerk I told you, was driving to work. She'd worked there, drove that 26 years. They found her car totally submerged in the Merced River and said she'd backed into the river. That was their story. So all these people
okay.
that were involved are pretty much dead or in jail now. So then we go to these two guys. One guy was named Billy Joe Strange. That was the first guy the police approached me with. And the other guy's name was Daryl Stevens. And Daryl Stevens is in prison for another violent crime. So he was involved. I saw him. He's involved. He's the one that called Cary Stayner over with Paul. And they were like the older guys were like the ringleaders.
Right.
And I told you there was a credit card fraud ring going on over there too, to get the money for their drugs, to rob people.
Yeah, like
I spoke to you about that.
yeah, like they just had this whole place scoped out. Like they had a whole operation
Right.
going on here. Like
Well, they did. Because Rachel Lou Campbell was caught in Modesto trying to use Carol's son's charge cards.
Right.
Okay, how did she get charge cards? And you got the Walnut on Briggs and Moore, and even when I was married, the ex-wife went to school, and her friends became teachers in Modesto, and a fourth grader showed up with gold jewelry all over him, and they identified some of that as Carol's sons also.
Right.
So they just told that was the first thing it told me there was more than one person involved besides Rhonda.
Right. Oh wow! I mean, yeah, this is just incredible when you start digging into it. So now we're at the part, Rhonda. If we want to continue, that you get away from these guys.
Right.
They try to box you in, and you get away. Now, do you go to the police right away to report this, or
No,
what happens here?
because I saw the sheriff being chummy with these guys,
Right.
and that kind of led me to believe if this is going on, they know about it and they're involved. And I said, I told my mom, we're not getting involved. We're going to move on.
Okay.
Nothing happened to us. How can I prove anything when I got away? Right.
Right.
Other than
Well,
I did have pictures and I had them on video wearing camouflage.
right, but I mean, what does that really prove, right? That the guys in the
Yeah.
wood wearing camouflage, like,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I go on over to Sonora, and I'm still on edge. So there's a winery by where Steve lived there, and I went in there and I grabbed some lunch, and they said, "Oh, the biggest gold nuggets here. You got to see it." And so I took some pictures, and I had a glass of wine. I was like, "Wow!" I was like, "That was a rough morning, you know."
Right. Oh, for sure. Oh my lord.
So they have some wine tasting. I like the smell of the wood and the fruit together. So I'm just trying to stiff that to stay calm. You know, I'm just standing there sniffing the wine, trying
Right.
to take a deep breath. And I'm just kind of laughing and going, wow, this is nuts. And so we were in Angels Camp, Sonora. We saw the same kind of just not very good people. And we just decided we're going to head back to San Francisco and do something else. So I kind of fly by the seats of my pants. I don't stick rigid with one plan. When things got ugly, I just immediately, and I think Carol was more really organized and wanted to stick with the plan. And that's when
Right.
you get in trouble. When trouble happens, you got to change quickly. Boom, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, the help the plan. It's time to
Yeah.
rewrite the plan when stuff
So
like
I
this is
bailed on the
going on.
plan. We come back. My uncle goes, "What's going on? Why are you back? You guys were just."
Right? Yeah, you guys just left.
They go, "Yeah, we had enough of that."
Well,
So
no, here's what's important is after I nailed Candler in Alabama, on June 7, 1999, after he went back there and everything else, and he ended up going away 20 years into Tehachapi State Prison for raping a girl since she was like 7 to age 12, is that he was paroled into Wilseyville, which is Calaveras County. So the whole thing there is that there's those counties, Mariposa, Tuolumne, even Merced a little bit of Amador, but it's Mariposa, Tuolumne, and Calaveras County are very, very corrupt. And these parolees, because
yeah,
we have state prisons up there and such, like Mule Creek, we have one out by Ione. Matter of fact, that's where Preston was at when they used to put away kids back in the 40s and 50s. But that whole area there attracts parolees, and their families move up there, and then you got the
exactly.
drugs and everything else. But yeah, it's those three counties, Mariposa, Tuolumne, and Calaveras at the time, more so with Mariposa and a little bit Tuolumne now, they're very corrupt. And that, like I said, you go back to the Iran-Contra, Zamina, Arkansas, Lakefront Airport, the Clintons, Barry Seal, and all this kind of stuff. And we talk about Philip Marshall being killed in Murphy's of like 2014.
Yep.
This is still going on because when the sheriffs control the airports and everything else, you can bring all the dope in and everything else. And even if you look now, after Mark Archuleta was murdered with National Coalition for Men, and a week later, the same guy kills Judge Salas in New Jersey after she was assigned Deutsche Bank's case with the Epstein, and they killed her son and shot her husband when she wasn't there. Is that this is still going on today? So what Rhonda witnessed and everything has not changed.
Right. And I remember asking you
So
that in our last interview, Steve, and
yeah.
I said, like, did they clean the Mariposa up? And you were like, no, it's still going on.
Still going
Well, when
on,
I was
man.
at the FBI, at the end of my interview, they said, "We do not want you to discuss this case with anybody. We've cleaned this all up, and you just go on with your little life." And I said, "Yeah, hell no."
That's
Well,
before I went to Alabama.
yeah, like that's yeah. I mean, so yeah, like so you didn't go to the local police, but so how did the FBI? How do you get in contact with the
Okay,
FBI, or do they get in contact with you, or
a little bit of both. So
okay,
what happens is in February of '99, I've got pictures here. I went on a trip to Cancun because Chicago's really cold in the winter.
okay,
So after this event, this is the first hotel I stay in since that happened to me. I become like post traumatic. I start having nightmares. I start throwing up. My friends start taking pictures. What's wrong with her? She's usually the life of the party. Something's up with her. And I'm having nightmares because this is the first place I'd been on vacation again. And I didn't realize I had post traumatic stress until I tried to go to a hotel again. And then I become, anxious and sick. And I put it together that I had, problems after this. So my friends, they were taking my picture. They're like, "Look at her." Like I was wildly sleeping, they said, and talking and tossing and turning. And they were taking pictures of me, making fun of me. So, anyways, I'm in Mexico. I get back around Valentine's Day, and my mom calls frantic saying, I'm watching the news. There's girls missing from the Cedar Lodge. I know it's those guys, she says.
Right, yeah, well, yeah, for
So I'm
sure.
like, yeah. I said, well, let's see if they can solve it. I don't want to get involved. That's what I said. I said, we didn't get involved before. Let's see what happens. So I wait a few weeks, and it's on the news constantly and nothing is happening. So I decided one morning before work, I had another bad nightmare. I'm gonna call the FBI and tell them what happened to me. So I call early in the morning, San Francisco task force. They have a task force set up looking for these girls. And I said, well, I said I was supposed to stay there a week. These guys were lurking. They were following me. They looked like they were trying to kidnap me. And I have blonde hair. I'm a young girl. And I said, I knew it was the way I looked. And I can tell you right now by the nightmares I'm having, I see these people are all dead. It's these are killers. And I said, if the bodies aren't in the park and they're further away, like the FBI told me, they've done it before. And I said, if you stay at the Cedar Lodge, you'll see what I saw. And it's hot there. I said, you just stay there and concentrate because I already see on the news the wallet shows up on over in Modesto by Dykes and Lorik's house. I'm already seeing the crime scene move way over to Modesto. And I wanted the FBI to concentrate the Cedar Lodge. And I think, they just didn't see they just didn't get it. Yeah. Yeah, they were already on scene. They told me about Billy Joe's, and then she tells me, she goes, well, I got bad news for you. There's two convicted sex offenders that were working there that had keys to your room. And um, I'm like, yeah, just concentrate right there. I said, you'll catch them. I said, these people are dead. And there's no way I could know this, but I knew. I knew that I'd be the only one that got away. I don't know. I'm like that. I just know stuff. And I can't really explain how I knew, but I knew. And she goes, okay. And I hung up. So then a week later, I see them arrest Dykes and Lorik in their stand up, but I don't see them arrest anybody else. And so I call back, and then I get another lady who's really rude. And I say, the killer's still at the lodge. And they pshawed me. That's when she goes, psh, oh, yeah, right. Like I'm crazy, and hung up. And I'm like, and then I found out that the head of the FBI was having an affair with this woman. And the head of the FBI's wife worked at the FBI. So there was a lot of stuff going on in the FBI that was bad. So that's why they're like cowboys. You cannot, I've never had to call the police for anything. So when I called them and got that kind of response, I'm like, you can't even call the FBI. Like they're just the biggest a-holes on earth.
Well, well, if you remember right, when how I got in the case with Rhonda is when this case happened, and being a bail agent, I bailed people out of Mariposa and stuff, is it didn't fit right. And I wrote that 18-page report to the TURNAP task force in Sonora with the FBI, because the women were missing. They had this whole, command post set up and everything. And that's when I saw the newspaper article Mooney wrote about Rhonda Dunn in Chicago, who was there. It was a great article, and described Candler is when I got involved with it, and how she said they followed her, and Candler was possibly the ringleader. She identified the guy to the T, the way he was bow-legged, all this kind of stuff. Then I reached out to the Carrington's attorney, started talking to Mr. Carrington. About 6 months later, Rhonda flew up from Chicago, and the Modesto B flew her out, and we interviewed. Then we went up to meet the Carrington and everything, and they knew something was going on. And Mr. Carrington knew that Paul Candler was involved in this thing, because somebody even called who was possibly a police officer, because he was been dealing with the FBI and law enforcement for a while, could tell how a cop speaks on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So what she saw was absolutely true. The last thing they wanted was Rhonda to interfere with this.
They didn't want me getting involved.
That's why is that DC, or I should say Quantico, sent out 50, I swear to God, FBI agents to clean out Jay Maddox and two other lieutenant kind of guys below him, and the Sacramento FBI office, which was handling this. and they shipped them out. And that's when Nick Rossi he was the Harvard graduate, but then who I got along with later on. But Maddox screwed this case because they said they had 9 people involved and all that kind of stuff after we arrested Candler in Alabama on June 7th, 1999. But they didn't name him. And then all of a sudden, Nina Dean, the DA in Tuolumne County, resigns, and the FBI has egg on their face. And so they were trying to basically kind of cover it up.
Right.
And Jeff Ryan is a good FBI agent, but you know what? Stayner confessed to Ted Rollins on KTVU Channel 2 also. I mean, he wanted a book to be famous like his brother and all this kind of stuff. So they focused on Stayner, and that took him away from the originally had 9 guys.
A lot of what Stayner said did not match the physical evidence. I can go over some of the physical evidence that didn't match. And that was, there was a beer can found by Julie's body that did not match Stayner. Okay. And Dykes had already confessed to some of this stuff. A key to their room was found at a guy named Larry Utley, who was a sex offender. He lived in Modesto, and Dykes was staying with him. So Dykes,
he worked on Lawrick's cars.
Yeah, Dykes was, these guys knew, the FBI kept telling me these guys don't know each other. And through Steve's work and me just investigating, going into town, talking to people, they did know each other. They were seen at a meth party together. They if they didn't know each other exactly, there were 6 degrees of separation between those two, but they knew each other.
Oh yeah, you know what, Rick? I got to send you the handwritten notes I got from my witnesses back then, saying they had a party. See, that's why they found Julie later, is they kept her as a sex slave for probably 6 weeks. She was all drugged up, and all these guys, these animals, these perverts took turns. It's sickening.
And a lot of people said that they saw this, and when there's smoke, there's fire. People wouldn't just be saying they saw her in Lawrick's Corvette in a pink blanket, unconscious. Several people reported this, and there's all these reports, and there's just no way people would be making up these stories. And the stories were all consistent with them being involved.
The thing is they didn't make them up. When I got these handwritten notes, these people had nothing to lose. So when I was infiltrating the underground, and I'd go to their houses at 2 a.m. and have my gun there and sit down and smoke a weed with them or whatever I had to do to get information out of these guys, is that I would tell them, you guys have mothers and sisters. If this happened, I'm the guy you want to go find this, even though they're bad guys. So they related to this, and that's how I got involved on that side with Nancy Lawson. I could say her name is Nicole now because it's in the book. And why she committed suicide at the end. I mean, the pressure, and I even put into some of the Modesto cops, if I'm not wrong, Rhonda, is some Modesto cops were involved in this.
Yeah. Mooney kept me away from any danger. It was like, he was sent to me. And then when Steve called the law office, I was given a deposition at the Carrington's law office in San Francisco, and they were liable. They paid the family $1 million civil lawsuit from the Cedar Lodge because they allowed all these guys to hang out there. They allowed the sex offenders to have keys to our rooms, so they paid them only a smidge, $1 million. That's it. And a lot of that was based on my testimony of what was going on there, and that I barely escaped. Yeah.
Right. Incredible. Like that's what like I was saying to Steve and when we talk is that this thing goes so much deeper than people realize. Like, and it goes right to the top. Like, it's just when you start looking into it. Like, I thought it was like when I started looking into it, it was going to be kind of like, okay, there's a murder. There's murders going on, and I read the book and I figured, but then when you start digging into it, it just, like I was just saying, it just gets so much deeper, and there's so many people involved. And what's disturbing is that there's so much law enforcement that are covering things up, and incredible.
So it got pretty heated I was interviewed for like 3 hours.
And how did that go?
I was pretty, direct and pretty like, I'm like Buford T. Pusser. I'm like the new sheriff, It was kind of like, so much corruption. Did you ever see that movie, Walking Tall? It was kind of like that.
Oh yeah, that's another good movie.
I'm like sitting there going, well, here's the deal. They charged him with Joey's murder, but not until all my paperwork was in, and everything that I saw, they didn't charge him for another 3 months to investigate everything I said.
Right.
Because they didn't want to look bad again, because we already know there's still people out there that were involved, and they're not they're still walking free, you know.
Yeah,
But
it's
there's a lot
wow.
of people going to burn in hell on the other side of life here, you know.
For sure, yeah. Like I mean, it's just amazing that and that's what you think it came down to, because we were kind of talking about this, is that the FBI didn't want egg on their face, kind of
Yeah.
for messing this up, right? So that's kind of like what you were saying, that's kind of like why they didn't, like, I just don't understand why they didn't.
They didn't want me talking to
Right.
anybody. They
I
wanted
don't.
me to. That's when I realized in America you can't talk, and now it's really you can't talk. You know, everything's cancel culture now. So it's kind of nice we're talking outside the U.S. because I feel like they really made us look like we're the criminals. Like I didn't do anything wrong, and they made me feel like I'm a crazy, some renegade rogue woman trying to get them in trouble. You know.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and you're the one that barely got away with your life. Like I mean,
Yeah.
and then the protecting these guys. So I know I've asked Steven this, and I think I know the answer too. That you definitely think that a lot of these guys were being protected and looked after, because I
I
mean,
heard there was an informant at the Cedar Lodge, and a lot of times these informants are the worst people in the world,
right.
And I've seen documentaries on informants being the killer. Yeah.
Oh, for
So
sure. Yeah. And what did you find out, Steven, during all your research and diving into all of this? Is there definitely informants that they were protecting and whatnot?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, when I chased Cliff Watkins in '95, and I got arrested in Mariposa, and we know the story, and I got off. But he told me everything. He told me he was a drug mule. He told me where the drugs were at. He told me they killed Ron Van Meter. He knew all that kind of stuff. And he wasn't like a super druggy kind of guy, but he made money for them, and that's where the power brokers come in. We talk about George Cleese and Cab Def, and it's when you look at the 2020 video you looked at, yeah, I mean it's like I said, every major country has an illegal narcotics trade. I mean, it's the way it is, and it's not going to go away. And I'm not into legalizing all these drugs, but as long as these guys did it. But here's the thing: those cops will burn those guys all day long. As soon as they screw up, they're back in prison. They're not going to protect those guys. And then,
Right.
yeah, definitely. In
oh
Mariposa,
yeah,
it just go ahead.
they told me Dykes and Lorick weren't involved. That they had the shootout was Steve Silva because they had three strikes and they were going down. They had nothing to lose. They had nothing to do with this. That's what they told me was the reason. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the reason.
That's what, that's why when they brought Dykes in and he drew maps and showed him everything, but yet they didn't videotape or audio tape his confession.
Right.
I mean, it was all set up like that,
And
because
they told me, this is how it's going to go. We're going to have one trial. This family's been severely traumatized. We're not going to have a bunch of trials. They basically said one person's going to go down for this. We're going to have a trial and be done with this. And that was the game plan. They didn't want to further traumatize this family, but if I was them, I would want to know everybody that was involved.
And and they did, and they didn't want to do that, and they wanted that's what they would have wanted. Now it's 20 years later. We're talking about it, and they're probably in their late 80s or early 90s, and I wouldn't want to see them go through it again. But that the characters knew that they just didn't come out and say that to go against the FBI, because the FBI is working with them and everything. But I mean, I had conversations. You were up there, Rhonda, when we went to saw the characters. They know Candler and these guys were involved. They knew Lark was involved.
Yeah.
Right.
They knew.
Well, they
knew
made me feel better. They validated. They go, they found the key with Dykes, and they go, we know other people were involved. And the reason Cary Stayner confessed to stalking me and my mom down that trail. And he said the reason that he didn't kill me is because when he got close, he thought he went to high school. I said, that's a bunch of BS. I got away, and he just didn't like it. He
Right.
didn't know me. Adam.
You got when he got
That
close.
was the reason he gave that I was alive to the Carringtons.
Well, plus you were when he got close to you, you were too old for him.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. Yeah.
Well, do you guys? What I want to ask you guys? Do you guys want to take like a 4-minute break and then just to get a stretch and stuff like that? I just started doing that, Rhonda, because usually Steve and I'll go a couple hours, and I was like, maybe I'm gonna start taking a break halfway, like an hour through, so we can stretch and stuff. So yeah, I just go ahead. I just put up a screen that says "Be right back," and then we can all meet back here in 5 minutes. How's that sound?
Yeah. No, that'd be good. Yeah. Ask Rhonda about Lisa Noe and all
that. Yes, we will. Yeah, we'll do that when we come back. We'll definitely hit on that.
See you in a minute.
All right, I'll put the Be right back up, guys, and I'll see you in 5 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Rhonda's doing good, Diana. Yeah, she's doing good. Oh, she's doing good on this. That's good for her. We're gonna do something else. What are you doing? This whole house is like an investigation house.
Can you hear me there, Stephen? I think you're on mute. I think you're muted, my friend. There you go. Can you hear me now? It says you're muted. All right, it says you're not muted.
There we go. How's that?
That's perfect. And we just got to get Rhonda back.
I didn't touch you. I think you can control Skype from over there, Rick.
Yeah, I think I did. I turned off Rhonda's mute. I turned mute on Rhonda's too. So if you're listening, Rhonda, you just got to turn the mute off because for some reason it's not letting me turn it off for you.
Okay, there.
Oh, perfect. There we go. Perfect. There we go. We're back, guys. I hope everybody had a good break and stretched a little because I know I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where did you want to continue? We're just talking about. Okay. We're just letting everybody know before the break we're talking to Rhonda Dunn, and we're talking about how she was basically stalked by a group of that's involved with Yosemite Sightseer murders, Stayner, and a bunch of other people that are involved in this group, and she's giving us her story. And we also have Stephen Sanzeri with us, who I've had on the show a couple times. So make sure, if you want to get caught up, everybody listening, make sure you check out interview part 1 and 2 with Mr. Stephen Sanzeri, because we really get to know him and we really break down what happens in the book and what goes on in this case, and then come to this interview because it's a great way to end it. And we also do a little bonus video, about 15 minutes long, where Stephen and I talk about these comics that he got from Stayner, and we kind of look at what's going on in these comics and how it kind of is really creepy. So definitely check those videos out. So welcome back, guys, and welcome back, Stephen, and welcome back, Rhonda.
Okay, so we were going to talk about after I went to the FBI, Stayner's been arrested. He's being housed in Fresno on state charges at this point.
Okay.
So I move out of Chicago and go to a quieter town, and I'm watching the news, and here's this girl on the news saying that she's a pen pal to Cary Stayner in California. I flipped my lid. I couldn't believe it. So I call up Mooney. I said, Mooney, you got to fly out here. There's a girl that's been communicating with Stayner. We got to get this information to see who's involved.
Right.
So I wrote down a bunch of questions for Mooney to ask her. So Mooney meets with her, and I wanted her to get away. I was like, this girl doesn't realize how much danger she's in. So Mooney tells her, that I'm living in the area, that I survived this ordeal, and, she kind of just wants to warn you. So I tell Mooney, I write down a bunch of stuff, and Mooney asks her, and she's flabbergasted that I knew what he drank, because she didn't believe he was guilty, and I knew he drank lemon Snapple. I described the clothes she was wearing, and she had a picture of him wearing those clothes, and she just fell over.
Well, yeah, for sure. Wow.
And he's like, we want to tell you he really is a murderer, and you shouldn't be communicating with him. But, and that's when he had talked about me to her, that, he said that he thought he went to high school with me, that he also communicated, a bunch of things about this other crime with Vanessa, but he talked in third person, he knows the killer. He's not the killer,
Mm-hmm.
but he knew all these details. And I told you the name was changed at the lodge to Smith.
Right. Right. And
So
does he have her convinced, this pen pal, that he's innocent, that he didn't do this?
Right.
Wow.
But she goes, well, I'm going to come out to the jail and visit you, and I'm going to stay at the Cedar Lodge. She goes, oh, no, don't stay there. It's dangerous. She's like, why is it dangerous? You're the killer and you're in jail. So why is it still dangerous?
Yeah, but that's important. Say that.
That is important.
See? So he gave it away right there. There's still dangerous people there. Don't go there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big deal. It's kind of like we're laughing about it in a way because it is funny that he's saying that. But like Stephen said, that's a big deal. If he's the killer and he's in jail, why not go there? What's the problem?
Yeah. What's the problem? And then, so she becomes very scared when she realizes, he really did do this, and you really shouldn't be giving him all this information because there's other people out there that could harm you.
Right.
And the weird thing was, then Rossi shows up with a warrant and takes all her computers before we can ask her anymore. Rossi shows up, beats us there, and kind of clams her up, and she left town. So we've never heard from this lady again.
That's before they hauled her into the FBI office in Chicago.
So
Wow.
this girl dropped off our radar like as fast as she could. We never heard from her again. So
Yeah, that's incredible. Like, I mean, and the fact that he convinced her that he was innocent and stuff, like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just really disturbing. And wow.
Yeah.
Like, I just the more I keep hearing, and then when I started speaking with you, Rhonda, it's incredible. And I'm like, wow. I'm just, that's all I ever say. It's just like, there's so much going on here that in this case, and then with Mariposa, like Stephen and I have kind of talked about what was going on there, and incredible.
Well, like I said, Rick, to interrupt you, sorry, is that Rhonda has like a photographic memory, and right, and I have a photographic memory like with faces. I recognize a girl I was in like third grade with when I was like 30. Okay,
Yep.
I mean I got that, but there's other things. Rhonda picks up on everything, and she has a steel trap for a mind. So if something happened 30 years ago, she'll give it to you verbatim. And that's what the FBI didn't like, is because she was so meticulous and what she saw that they found it almost unbelievable. But you got to remember, this is right after with the Whitehurst and the labs and the FBI was screwing evidence up and everything, is that they didn't want any interference. And Rhonda comes in, who's probably the best witness next to, I'm sorry, you remember Mayor Sabatino, Rhonda, from Modesto?
Yeah.
He saw
the same thing as me. Yeah.
Yeah. He saw Stayner and Candler at the front door. And you know what's funny? Orb had mentioned that when I talked to Orb about 8 months ago. He reminded me that because he and Carmen Sabatino, the Modesto mayor, passed away about 5 years ago. But he was up there in the Cedar Lodge, and a guy opened the doors, the girlfriend, whatever, opened it up. And he was sitting there by the bed, and he saw Stayner and Candler together. Okay. And I was reminded of that, which isn't in my book because I forgot all about it, you know. And with Rhonda and I, it started off with the Modesto Bee article of Mike Mooney writing and Rhonda describing Paul Candler. That's how I hooked up with Rhonda on this case, is because of her description was exactly like Candler when I bailed him out of Tuolumne County. It was we
put that in the paper on purpose to see who would call us. Out of California, Steve was the only person that called us. And I was like, I go, Mooney, this is our guy. This is what we need to infiltrate these guys to see what really is going on. Because they were really looking at the family close. Because, the husband wasn't traveling with them. They got a phone call that Dykes and Mark were seen 2 weeks before the murders in Eureka, California. And the FBI and Carol had written out the itinerary and put it on the refrigerator of where they would be. So somebody close to the family could have known where they were going to be at the Cedar Lodge and tipped off Dykes and Lork. Or, they're a prominent family. We don't know, but I know, but Carol's mom said for a fact that her husband had nothing to do with this. But I was telling her, the FBI really was looking at your family. They really wouldn't move on from their family for quite a while. Actually.
Exactly. You know what? The first person you look to in a homicide is who's closest to them. Right. But the biggest thing, Rhonda, when I arrested Candler in Fultondale, Alabama, is that Mr. Carrington, Carol's father, Julie's grandfather, owned a strip mall in Fultondale, Alabama. I don't know. I'm not a real estate mogul, but I don't know a lot of guys in California that buy strip malls in Alabama. That's why the kidnapping for ransom thing was one of the first narratives. Okay, remember that. And then went away. I would never give the Carringtons a black eye, but somebody might have done something that pissed somebody off. When I went up to see Mr. Carrington, Rhonda, after you did twice, he was telling me back when the MGM was being built in 1972, and my parents owned a cabin in Lake Tahoe, a little tiny cabin. But I remember going to the opening of the MGM Grand in Reno, and they brought a 727 out on the stage. Mr. Carrington told me one day these guys show up in like black suits, like Men in Black, like mafia guys, to his house in Eureka, and try to talk him to invest in this new casino that has the biggest stage in Nevada and the whole world, and he didn't do it. But they because you know what? Like I told you before, and I'm not this public knowledge. I've said it before, and it's not that I mean, Mr. Carrington is my best friend, but it's not only did his grandfather found Santa Rosa, Mr. Carrington was worth $350 million back then. Okay,
Wow.
he's a target for illicit investments. Let's
For
call
sure,
it.
yeah.
Okay, and it's Reno, and back in '72, the mob was still down in Vegas and running the whole show. We know that, it's all fact, but that, like Rhonda says, and we're not pointing fingers, somebody might have screwed up somewhere down the line when they decided to take the family out. Because when they're at room 504, and Rhonda will tell you, in February, there ain't nobody at Cedar Lodge. I mean, there's like 500 rooms there. There might have been 60 people there, but they put them up in the very back part of the motel. They were a target from the
They were
minute
a target, and there was an organized killing. It was really cleaned up well, hardly anything left behind. They were looking at those pink fibers left in Dyke's vehicle.
There you go, the
pink blanket.
Pink blanket fibers. Listen,
Yeah.
I called Nick Rossi on the pink blanket fibers, Rhonda, and he said, "Oh, they're this and that." You know, the pink blanket fibers are almost like hair follicles in a DNA in a hair follicle forensics. They're that close. Right. Even though one company might make 5 million blankets, those fibers are almost as good as hair follicles for forensic DNA in humans. It's not that far off.
Right.
And then the narrative came out. I remember the narrative coming out. Mr. Carrington told me this, which we didn't know, Rhonda, at the time. Maybe Mike told you, Mike Mooney from SWB, is that Stayner walked in with a gun. And we both know, Rhonda, because we met the Carringtons and they're our friends, is that Carol's son would have fought to the death not to let those two girls and her and everybody get kidnapped by one guy. One guy didn't show up with a gun and tie up 3 women.
No,
it didn't happen.
From Dyke's confession that it was a robbery. They were there to rob him, and suddenly Stayner up and killed Mrs. Sun, and the robbery went south from there. And Jens, the husband, found a ski mask across the street from the Cedar Lodge. So we know that there's multiple men involved, and it was a robbery that went south.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I remember talking to Stephen about within the last interview. Do you think that this was more because it was so much drugs going on and meth and stuff in the Cedar Lodge, that were they robbing people, and then for whatever reason this one went off the rails and a murder happened, and then they were kind of scrambling.
That's what happened.
I've heard that from all these snitches, and I heard that, where there's smoke, there's fire. I've heard that story from multiple people, that Stayner did not enter that room alone, and that Carol did not open that door. The key was found with Dykes over in Modesto.
But no, with Larwick. I mean, with Utley.
But Dykes stayed at that house.
Well, yeah, and his half brother Larwick was the guy who had the cars, and Utley just died a few years ago. But
he's dead.
You have less evidence, Rick, in Mariposa County than you do in Modesto. How's that happen? You got a wallet. You got Briggsmore, you got credit cards, you got kids going to school with bling on. They go to Utley's house and they find the room key on his goddamn counter in his bedroom, whatever dresser.
Right.
And
that's how I found it.
And the FBI still saying, I don't think so.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I have snitches all over the valley. We're biggest meth dealers in the world.
A scapegoat. They made one.
You know what?
Made a fall guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that they picked the wrong fall guys because they'll rat each other out anyway.
Exactly.
It's like the mafia has the biggest blood oath in the world, and every time you see Goodfellas or something else, they'll rat each other out anyway. Henry Hill ratted out everybody.
Yep.
You know what? So when these dirtbags who are all high on meth make a pact, that's weaker than Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I was hoping that somebody listening would give us a breakthrough, that somebody would snitch on these snitches and tell us that, yes, they are involved, that we would get a jailhouse snitch. Somebody listening would go to, be a
Yeah, but
jailhouse
no, Rhonda. Here's the thing, Rhonda is 20-some years old. Okay, there's no jailhouse snitches even alive. The biggest thing in my investigation was when Terry Ray, the day before Terry Ray is going to testify to the grand jury against Larwick and Dykes, he's found floating with his boots on in the Stanislaus River.
That's right. He was a witness.
Right.
He saw
Rick, I'm
Julie.
serious.
I heard he saw Julian. Mooney interviewed his sister, and apparently he saw Julie in Larwick's garage in the pink blanket,
I was there.
and they killed him. That's what I
Listen,
heard.
Listen, when Rick and I went to Modesto and we took Nancy out there and hooked up with Rick, who had he was the guy at the garage where my guy Betancourt tore apart the car and they were on meth. The first time he saw Stayner and he saw two girls in the back, is that no one's going to snitch anybody out. They don't, back then, okay? But you know what the point is that it'll end up with a Valentine's bag at the end. We all know that. But all those guys are totally involved, and Dykes, Eugene Dykes is not interviewed by camera or audio with the biggest case in the nation at the time.
Yeah, that's
Who
incredible.
does that?
That's incredible.
I mean, exactly.
It's kind of like Epstein's friend hung himself and the cameras were broke. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, listen, when I picked up, I remember I picked up Nancy with Rick that night in my van. We picked up this guy Rick, and we went to Larwick's house. Larwick was in prison, and I went into the garage, and I had this feeling, and I'm not being heebie-jeebie. I'm not being all this bullshit, but being an ex-cop, cops get gut feelings. I don't care who you are. But I looked in the back, and it's almost like I envisioned a girl in the dirt, tied up, and like behind a workbench that's like oiled up, and she's sitting there with a gag over her mouth. That's what Larwick and those guys did. I mean, listen, Larwick not only raped a fucking 7-year-old girlfriend of her mother, stabbed a husband, and then when they pull him over, Steve Silva, Larwick jumps out with a weapon. There was 30 rounds exchanged. The Modesto cop survived, thank God. He's a good cop. I know him. And he's shot 3 times in the stomach. That wasn't for a registration violation. When it's like when your car gets repoed. You know what? You knew you didn't pay your bill.
Exactly.
Larwick didn't pay his bill.
Yeah.
They know exactly. You know what? When you're a cop, you know exactly who these guys are in town. And Modesto's not that big.
Oh. So getting back to the kids
up.
wearing the jewelry, listen up. Listen, when I got in Stayner's head, the FBI wanted to know, did Stayner keep the jewelry from Carol, and what did it look like? And I said, I'm not that specific. I'm not psychic. I said, I don't know the items that were taken, but
Right. Let people know though, Rhonda, that because I found this shocking when I was talking to you before the interview, is that the kids were going to school wearing her jewelry. And
exactly.
I mean, that's crazy. And so explain to people, that's what the kids were wearing the jewelry, thinking they got bling, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
When you told me this.
And the FBI wanted to know if Stayner kept jewelry or, was this Dykes? And I said, I'm not that specific. I knew that Stayner was obsessed with hair, and somebody handed Carol's mom a diary with a locket of hair in it.
Wow.
Exactly.
And yeah, that happened.
Okay. Let me back up. When I met Nicole, Nancy Lawson in the book at the Acapulco Modesto, the reason is after Rhonda and I went up there, the Carringtons called me and said, the first interview you got to do is with this gal, Nancy Lawson.
Okay.
I meet her at the Acapulco Modesto. Tells me all these stories. I remember her boyfriend was outside the little adobe, there's a little wall or something. And he's watching because he's jealous or something. I'm doing the case. Is one of the first things she said was that there's going to be a trophy. She said that one of the gals they kept a lock of hair from Julie, and when she went over there, they threw it in the fire at the house. Okay, I got this in writing. Okay, I'll show you. You can put it up later, post it up after this interview. I have handwritten notes from people that were involved in this case.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, and Ron is exactly right. They keep something that sacrilegious, or it's a pendant, or it's a trophy. But Ron is right. They kept a lock of hair, Rick.
Yeah, but you told me that too.
Stayner was obsessed with hair. He had trichotillomania, where you pull your hair out. And
Yeah,
he
he did.
had that since he was 3 years old. He had an anxiety disorder, but he also was mentally ill. Besides that, yeah.
No, he definitely was. Because Rick and I went down there and interviewed his ex-girlfriend over down in Clovis in Fresno. She shut the door after like 5 minutes. But you know, I don't know if it's his parents or his upbringing. It was nothing again. I got friends in the LDS. So it's not about that. But he, you know, and it goes back to possibly that they sold Stephen Stayner off to Kenneth Parnell and Irving Murphy. I mean, you know, there's a lot of. I mean, we got to remember something. Cary Stayner's in the house. Cops show up after this gunshot. They find his uncle with a shotgun blown away through his guts in Merced. And
Cary was the only one living at the house, so Cary's good.
Yeah, but they found child porn in that whole house. Yeah. Okay, but Cary Stayner walked away from that. That's what I'm saying, is that maybe Cary had a side of him that was a killer, even though he can't cut heads off, and there's other crap we're talking about, which is terribly savage.
Yep.
But if you're a little boy, remember his little brother Stephen, who he loved, was raped and kidnapped and everything else by Kenneth Parnell and Irving Murphy, and they wrote the book. I know my name is Stephen and everything. And forget about he didn't get his kudos and write up passes to get a movie and all that stuff. Is that he probably still loved his little brother, and when this happened to his little brother, he went ape shit. Yep. I think that's part of it.
And he was not an organized killer. Remember, the San Peloso was very cleaned up. When he killed Joey, he left behind tons and tons of evidence.
Oh, you know what?
The sunglasses, fingerprint, he left everything. He left like a popcorn trail, basically.
Oh, listen. You know what he did? He went in the house, tried to grab her. There was a fight, and Joey was a tough. I talked to her aunt a year ago up in Arnold. I was running this little health club for a short time, and she came in and looked me up. And you know what's funny, and I say funny, which is ironic, is that about a week before Joey was murdered, she talked to her mother and her aunt and said, I don't feel safe up here in Fort Ristra.
Yeah. He had fear for 2 weeks before she died. Bad fear.
She was going to head back. She was going to head back to Marin County, take some kid, because she challenged kids out on hikes. A beautiful girl, but it's the only person, and it didn't come out till later, that they actually cut her head off. Stayner cut her head off to make it a point. They found the head on the other side of the creek.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, and it was posed, and that's a bad sign.
It was posed.
When you pose a head, you've done that before. Yeah.
He put it on a rock so the cops could see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they got a struggle in her cabin. They got tire tracks because his car had one tire that was off. Goes right to the fucking creek, and they find Joey's head cut off. And even with Julie, her head was partially decapitated. But then you got the burned out cars with Silvino and Carol, son in the car. The MO is totally different. There's no way one guy, serial killer named Cary Stayner, did all of this.
Right.
When I said that, the FBI goes, whoa. They're like, that's not true. I said, yes, it is. I said,
it's totally true.
I said, my doorman gave me a book, told me I should be an FBI profile 6 months before these dogs chase me. And I have a book called The Mind Hunter by John Douglas. And it says in the book that does not change. When you're like Ted Bundy, you're always an organized killer, or you're always
are.
Killer.
You know, Rick
don't change.
I think Rick just interviewed a serial killer expert.
Yeah, I just
and he'll
did.
tell you
and
the
you
same
don't
thing.
change, right?
They don't change their MO. They don't change their habits.
They don't change
because it works, and that's what they get off on.
Yep.
It's like this, like the priest thing. I'm a former Catholic guy. I'm not. No offense. I'm not a God-fearing guy anymore.
I am too, former Catholic.
Yeah, but the thing is that they go after either little girls or little boys. They don't do both. And the same with serial killers. Serial killers stay with what they know. They're comfortable with it. They're not going to. Eventually, they want to get caught. They all want to get caught sooner or later. And Cary wanted to get caught.
Yep, I agree. I totally agree. And then you're right, Stephen, that I never believed that he was acting alone. And I like the way that you say, how's he gonna hold a gun, kidnap a woman, tie her up while he's holding a gun? Like, I mean, if I can see that, and I'm not no investigator, there's something fishy going on here if they're still going with that narrative, because he did not do it alone. I mean, the evidence
He went to a liar POF school. He's a pathological liar.
Exactly.
And that's part of his MO. He was a big liar. Yeah. And I caught a cartoon and it's before a judge and it says, how do you know he's guilty? And I said, because his pants were on fire.
Well,
They
yeah.
didn't like my cartoons, but I was doing weird things. I was cutting out cartoons for the whole year he was loose, and I was mentally tracking him. But I'm not that psychic where I can see what jewelry he took. I just knew things about him. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and the fact that they were wearing the jewelry is just, I don't know why that bothers me. That's so bold. It's just I don't know. I just, for some reason, that
All
bothers me.
these people are going to, I mean, they're all going to burn in hell. All these people that are involved had anything to do with this it's the worst of mankind
Right.
in my eyes,
Right.
And I saw the worst of mankind, but then I saw the best. Mooney came beside me, and then the dark horse Steve showed up. Yeah.
Right. Well,
Well, this is the thing.
exactly.
No, no, no. You know what it is that it's like men going to war, occupational hazard. I was a cop. If I got shot on duty, occupational hazard. But when you touch women and children, there's no rules anymore, Rick. I'm
Right.
sorry. That's how we got to do it. That's how we got to roll. And
Yep.
what Rhonda did, I mean, she's a hero.
Yep.
She went out there, nobody believed her. She did this, and we hooked up. Matt, Rhonda, tell them about when I sent you the photo lineup and your mom fainted.
Yeah, I still have the photo lineup, and my mom is funny. Whenever you show her a picture or mention this case, she basically almost just starts to panic immediately. So my mom's not built like me at all.
Right.
And she was the meek person that, yeah. But I
No,
really don't bring her in. She's elderly now. I don't bring her and get her involved.
well,
But
here's
I
what
told
happened,
her
Rick.
about this interview, and she said, "Oh, I wish you would have been an investigator. You've been a good one."
Oh no, Rhonda was my go-to person. Is that after all this happened, I put a photo lineup together, like the same as the police one. There's 6 pictures, and you put your guys somewhere in the 6 pictures, right? 3 on top, 3 on the bottom, right?
Right.
So that's what you do. I sent it to her, and I remember getting a call back like maybe an hour later. And she's in Chicago, and she go, "Oh my God, my mom fainted," because her mother saw her mother picked Candler. Rhonda picked Candler, and I
Yep.
didn't put Dykes. There's nobody else in there. But that's the ringleader. From there, we go down to who else is involved. And then we get the map. We showed the map of Cary Stayner. We had fun with this one. I mean, Rick, it didn't happen that way, and they tried to find the easy way out, and they couldn't. Like when
Yeah.
Agent Barnes called me from San Francisco FBI when he was in Alabama, telling me to stop at 101 posters. I'm like, you know what? You take, back, the FBI is making 50 grand back here. Take half of your salary and put it up there on a bond and tell me you're not going to chase this guy to the ends of the earth to save your
Exactly.
home or whatever it was. That's
I
how it
was
worked.
in Steve had a bonds office. He had all these posters up, and it was really creepy in that room. And the picture that they put in the lineup for Dykes, I saw Dykes with long blonde hair and a red tank top. Steve pulls out of a drawer out of his office a newspaper clipping with Dykes with long blonde hair and a red tank top. And the cops showed me like short brown cropped off hair, so I didn't pick him out. And they did that on purpose. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that they did that on purpose.
Oh, hey
Yeah.
Rick, I remember Ron. Okay, after we went to Eureka and everything, Ron stayed at the house a couple days. She was seeing her uncle in Redwood City. I mean, Calaveras like 3 hours away, and I showed her this picture, and I remember looking at her, and she was like confused. Well, there was one picture that they put in the paper of Dykes with a certain hair and everything. That's before his CDC, California Department of Corrections photo when he went to prison,
Mm-hmm.
and that photograph disappeared. But I happened to save it, and then she's looking at these photographs. She can't even figure Dykes out. I showed her this one, and she goes, that's Dykes. And that's what I'm saying is that this was manipulated, back through the press, almost like they don't want anybody to recognize who this guy is. She picked him out faster than you could say Mickey Mouse. I was so impressed. I was like, I want to go around the corner of my house and come back out and show it to her again and say, are you sure? She
Right.
picked him out because she's exactly right. They changed his photograph in the paper, Rick.
Wow.
I didn't
That's
tell you. I didn't tell you that one, Ron.
no.
Remember that?
Yeah, I couldn't because they showed him with brown cropped hair and a black.
No, he had
all
no. He
beaten up.
he had a crew cut.
He had a crew cut.
He had a short
And
cut hair, which they didn't show in the paper, and he was the guy.
But they knew, and the FBI knew. I said he had blonde hair, and he wore like a pimp hat, like something
Yeah.
Kramer would wear when he was, had a weird hat on, and I knew that was Dykes. But they made sure I didn't identify Dykes. Yeah.
Right, but you know what? They made one mistake. They put one picture in the paper, and I just happened to keep it. And when I showed you at my office, and you almost passed out.
Yeah.
It's incredible, incredible. Like the more I keep digging into this, the it just gets deeper and deeper and crazier and crazier. Like I mean, it really does. Like, especially after like I've talked to Stephen many times, and now I'm speaking with you, Rhonda, and getting like what you went through, which is, I mean, I'm so happy you're still here with us. I mean, like, yeah, it's amazing. You are a hero. I mean, like the fact that you got away and stuff like that, and you were aware enough to know what was going on and what they were trying to, set up and plan. It's amazing you're still here. Like it really is. Like that could have turned out very, very different for you and your mother.
Oh yeah.
And it's just, and it's really sad that this is still going on to certain degrees. Like I thought like I said earlier in the interview, I thought when I asked Stephen about Mariposa and other areas, I said, like, did they clean it up? Is it? And it's like, no, it's no better. It's
No, when I was at the law office, they had all the statistics. Tuolumne, Calaveras County, and Mariposa has the highest sex offenders because they all live out there because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want them in San Francisco. So they
right,
built the prisons out there. They all live up in the hills. They all cook meth. They're all bad people. And every man that I talked to nonchalantly in all these little towns flat out told me that they had a criminal record. I would go in a coffee shop and say, start talking, hey, what do you think happened to those girls? And not one of the locals said that Cary Stayner could have got that car up to that property by himself, that was Dykes and Lorik's area.
right.
Oh, you talking about Wheeler Road where they found the burned out car?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what?
No
Yeah,
way he could know that.
there's no way you come. There's no way you come from Mariposa, Rick, 2.5 hours and drive up 108 and find some dirt road on the side, right? And guess what? Larick grew up 2 miles from there. Okay,
Right.
and then he takes a cab back, whatever it was, $180, and he doesn't even have the money. If you're a handyman at Cedar Lodge, you're making $8 an hour,
Exactly.
and he goes back there. But then they find the wallet and everything in Modesto. I mean, and then he writes the note to the FBI. We had fun with this one. This thing stinks to high heaven, Rick. And that's why we're doing these interviews.
Yeah.
We're trying to expose the truth about a case that, no offense to poor John Benet Ramsey or anything, this is one of the most unsolved cases in the history of the nation.
Wow.
Well, there's, for me to get my mind wrapped around how the hell did this happen, I went out investigating myself. Like, how could this have happened to me, in broad daylight?
Exactly.
And then,
yes, I'm wondering the same thing. That's a great question, Rhonda.
and to validate myself, did I see what I saw? And because, there was a lot of people that were against me, and I just wanted to go out and talk to people, and everybody said that there was no way Cary Stayner did this by himself. Every local said that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. And even just by what I've learned, I mean, I didn't never believe that. And what I wanted to ask you, Rhonda, and if this is too personal by any stretch of the word, just say you don't want to answer it because I'm just curious. After you went through this and being stalked by these guys and that, has it made you not trust men? Or like, I'm just kind of curious, like what that does to somebody. Like, I mean, if that was happening to me and it was reversed, I would be very, very nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, like dating and stuff like that. I just would if I saw that ugliness.
Yeah.
I would be so. Is that affected you, or are you like?
For about the first couple years, I couldn't go out with a stranger. I'd just be coming unglued,
Right, I don't blame you.
And then, I just bought a place, and it had a lot of it had a lot of work to do on it, and I just kept my mind busy.
Right.
I worked a lot at the hospital, and I worked a lot on this place. And the boyfriend I have now, he has to be very quiet. He doesn't yell at me. He's very humble person. He's not he's not narcissistic. And we just hang out, and I don't have any problem, but he's the only person I could probably hang out with. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad. I'm so happy to hear that because at least you have somebody now, and I mean that's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm so happy to hear that because I don't want these what happened to you and with these scumbags to ever take away happiness from you because don't give them that power. Like I mean, just
Right.
and you know that. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir when I say that, but you can't give these guys that type of power. So I'm so happy to hear that you do have somebody in your life, and that's amazing. I mean, and you deserve it. So I'm happy to hear that it didn't kind of turn you right off of the idea of being around men or anything like that. Because I'm just wondering. I mean, that's really something what you went through was traumatic, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
I wanted to know how that affected your whole outlook on the dating scene and men, and like because you definitely saw the ugly
Yeah, I
side.
keep real busy and like just I was so discouraged with the way the case was going,
Oh,
that
for sure.
I was thinking we would never have closure. And then I told you a year ago, the same man that saw me being dragged in the woods said that I saw you marching for justice and you're going to have a breakthrough. So I believe that that's going to happen.
I do too. I mean, I really do, and that's amazing. Like, you were brought into this case for a reason, Stephen. I truly believe that. I really do. Like,
He was the
it's
only one that called.
exactly that's yeah. When you told me that, I was like, he was the only one that called, and you're like, yes, he's the only one. And I was like, that's not to me. There's a reason. It just is, and that's the way I see it too. And I really think that you and Steven and that and I said this to Steven in the past too in the interviews is that him doing interviews and you doing interviews and keeping this case alive and also talking about it is probably what has kept you safe over the years because
Yeah.
it'd be kind of weird if all of a sudden you're doing a lot of interviews and then something mysterious happens. Then there's going to be eyes where they don't want eyes. So I think you keeping it
Yeah.
in the light is a good thing, in my opinion.
Well, I went right away to the media because I thought that this was going to be a cover up and that I'm going to make myself known to keep myself safe.
Exactly.
And the FBI did not like Mooney hanging out with me. Actually, Mooney took a hit for chumming up with me. The FBI were like, they wanted it to go their way and just to shut up and this thing's going to go away.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing with the, like you were saying, like you think with the FBI, it's just basically when you boil it down, is they didn't want to look bad. If you want to like that, if you want to boil it right down, and that to me, that's such a weak excuse. I just like really like just say that you messed up and then fix it. Like
Yeah, but Rick, it goes back to when I went to Alabama, and Rick and I were there for about less than 24 hours, and Agent Barnes calls from San Francisco with the FBI. And remember, I briefed Tuolumne County,
Right.
which was part of their case, and they followed me back and did all that. And the wanted posters of they're saying don't hand them out. Next thing, the deputies are carrying them in their pockets, and becomes the #1 manhunt in Alabama for some dirtbag out of California named Candler. Nobody heard about, and the only person that knew about Candler in a lot of ways was Rhonda because she recognized him. And that's why I hooked up with her because the description Mooney wrote in the Modesto Bee said, she described this guy like, Gumby or something, he was posed wearing whatever clothes. And that's what turned me on to this, which also gave me traction toward the Carringtons and the case to say, hey, Rhonda's not nuts, but the FBI dissed her. Why did Maddox and his lieutenants get thrown? I mean, Maddox, remember, Maddox was our FBI Western Hemisphere director. He's like the 4th guy in charge of FBI, and he ends up in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, in South Dakota, the FBI? There's one FBI office. They don't do anything but nothing. So why does the guy go from the top to the bottom? And when Senator Grassley came out in 2000 and said that the FBI, the Yosemite case is the worst bungle by the FBI since Ruby Ridge and Waco, it puts us in the top 3.
Exactly.
So you know what? Rhonda put her nose in it. I put my nose in it, and that's where we're out here right now. Is telling folks that no matter what you think or anything else, is that this guy didn't do it. And you know what? And when 3 women are killed in Modesto or Yosemite, there's no rules. And listen, if these women were savagely murdered, sorry to say, in Hawthorne, Nevada, we wouldn't be talking right now. Okay. Right. It's because it happened in Yosemite, and people take their families there. This stuff should not happen there. Exactly. Just like with David Pilates and 411, there's a reason that David Pilates, he's not a nut. okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because this stuff happens up there, and people go missing, and it's all about the meth. And when they get caught or whatever, either they get rid of them because they're snitches, they burn their snitches, and it's also the power brokers. There's so much money behind the drugs. Just like with the borders now or whatever, they can shut the borders down right now. We're still going to get the ecstasy in, okay? Because the power brokers are going to allow it.
Yeah.
It's all about the drugs. This was about drugs, and Rhonda will tell you that.
This is a perfect storm. The lawlessness, these guys hanging out, being on this meth, led to the rape and murder of these people. And
Yep.
that's what happens when you have lawlessness, and
And
it all went to hell.
corrupt
It all went to
law
hell
enforcement.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
gonna, I was
you
just
got
gonna
corrupt
say
law
that.
enforcement.
Yep.
And you got the Jerry Cox case with receivership in Mariposa County. They take a $500,000 property. They have some gal on farmer.com where they, this farmer like website for dating. And she goes in there and says she's raped. They arrest him, take his property. A man who's educated, everything else, by the way. And then, like I said, leads to Mark Archuleta and the murder. But Mariposa has not stopped doing this. They have not stopped being the bullies. Matter of fact, there's a bully up there. If you look on in Mariposa, there's a guy running around up there. He took a picture of himself next to a gal who's passed out in the bed and sent it to her boyfriend saying he just raped her. I mean, but they don't do anything about that either. And so
That's awful.
When the worker's car went in the Merced and it was submerged, and I saw them hauling it out, I left a message on the sheriff's answering machine. Yes, storm's coming.
See, Rhonda, I told you, you asked for this.
Yeah, incredible. Like, I mean, that it's still going on, Steve, is what bothers me the most. That's what just bothers me. It just bothers me. I find myself thinking about this a lot, and I'm just like, what is going on? And like, it's still going on, and it's basically they're flaunting it in your face, like you were just describing, and nothing's being done. Like, I mean, what do you do when there's when it's the law force is corrupt?
You know what? Here's the deal. Mariposa made itself on the map in the underground drug thing when Freeway Ricky Ross, crack cocaine, the Clinton crime bill came in for $100 million, and and all the drugs came with Barry Seal out of Mina and the Contras and Lakefront Airport. They found a place in California, in Central California, in the mountains where the sheriffs controlled everything. They could distribute cocaine, and this is before meth. This is before the meth thing,
right?
Yeah.
Except for California and Nevada, the meth, but bring in the cocaine. And if you look at Johnny Depp and Blow, and I knew the guy who wrote, Bruce Porter read my book. He wrote Blow. I mean, he's a great guy. He's a professor of English literature at Columbia University. So he got my manuscript. He would tell me back then, this is for real. So that Blow's a great movie. But if they could get the cocaine to San Francisco and LA, they could control everything. Just like the politics in California, Pelosi and Newsom and London Breed and all this shit going on in San Francisco. Because San Francisco, I love. I was born third generation.
It's turned into a shithole. It's a shithole now.
Oh no, it is now, but it's still my city. Like Chicago's your city, and I'm ashamed of what's happening.
Shithole.
I know, whatever. But my point is that it all starts in California. Mariposa became the West Coast stop and distribution. Listen, they took all the drugs into Yosemite Park. Guess what? At the time they were doing that, MC Entertainment, Music Corporation of America, which owned the distribution for most movies and all the music in the whole world, was run by Lou Wasserman. Lou Wasserman was built up on Al Capone's money and the Stein brothers. Okay, that's how Hollywood was built. The Jewish people ran the money, the Italians ran the muscle. And it started then, and that's when Mariposa became that place, because they said if we can get the cocaine into California and get it to the actors and musicians, and that's what took it off. And Freeway Ricky Ross making $200 million a week. It's all there. And Gary Webb.
Do you remember we were driving? We were in Ferndale having lunch, and we were talking about how this is all connected. And all of a sudden, the waiter goes, "Yeah, I used to work in Yosemite," and we started laughing.
Oh no, yeah, we were going to see the Carringtons in Ferndale, which is up by Arcadia on the way to Eureka, and we were sitting there having dinner. And this guy comes up, he knew everything, But what I'm saying is that Mariposa is still drug distribution. Yeah, I think it is. I'll say it right now on your show, Rick, because I still have people up there. Listen, I had a government person who's way up there, like third in the county, called me. What I told you like 4 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, out of the blue, I thought it was a spam call. He was telling me everything that's still going on up there. You know, we have to do another show about Mariposa.
For
Okay?
sure. Yeah, I agree.
Because the Yosemite case, I don't know. You know what? You know, if it comes and it gets back in court, whatever. I mean, I kind of hope it doesn't, because you know, I think we could prove our case without justification and judicial process. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, is that the Inspector General's office of California, not the Attorney General, Inspector General. Inspector General is the one that looks at bad cops and everything else. Is a point, but who's above the Inspector General in California? The White House.
Newsom.
There you go.
Newsom,
It's
yeah.
above Newsom and every, because Newsom thinks he's JFK and he's going to be the next guy, and we don't. I mean, no offense, he's a dog, but you know what? Kamala there and Biden and everything else. But guess what? If you look at Ukraine and everything else, why are we going? There's drug business, man. If there's agriculture, you can grow drugs.
Yeah.
I don't care. In Mexico, Mexico, you can now have medical marijuana out of Mexico. Okay. You know why? Because they grew ragweed for years. Back in the day, we tried to smoke that stuff. It was terrible.
I remember that.
But you know what? But now they got indoor grows. They have indoor grows that are 3 acres of buildings now in Mexico of pure marijuana. Because you know what? The soil's not conducive. The weather, everything else. They don't get the weather's conducive, but they don't get the water. And so what do? And they got the marijuana, but they got the drugs. They got the ecstasy. This ecstasy thing, Rick. And let's say the borders are open, the power brokers are still going to get the drugs through even with closed borders.
Right.
That's the way it is. And Mariposa is a big part of that still.
Right. And then the problem, at least we're in my area of the woods here in Canada, is fentanyl is exploding. Right. It's exploding on the scene. I actually lost. I've lost 2 friends to overdosing from fentanyl. They didn't even know that it was in what they were taking.
It's terrible.
And I've already lost 2 friends that way, so I can say it affected my life. There were 2 of my friends, so I firsthand. And
I mean, you know, it's like this. Guys everyone wants to get high somewhere or another.
Right.
If you drink a beer and you don't know it, and it's laced with some drug that's going to kill you, you don't know that. Those are accidental deaths. Okay. Yeah. These poor guys, they didn't know what they were doing. They wouldn't have done it.
Exactly.
Okay. But that's how it's come. But what's the advantage of that, though? I still don't understand the advantage of they get a certain high.
But letting it in to poison us. I mean, it's meant to be let in to kill us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're right. You know, that's going along with the narrative of Rockefeller and those guys trying to diminish our populations. And I kind of get that, Rhonda. You're probably right about that.
Yeah.
Because we're going to lose a lot of people on drugs. Listen, when I was a police officer and I was working the heroin impact team in the Bay Area, we didn't even go to work unless there was a hot shot. China white, Mexican tar. If someone died of an overdose of heroin, the whole county was all over it. Because drugs or not, we don't want to lose people. We love our people. Mm-hmm. But look at Louis Armstrong. He was always sniffing heroin. You know, people didn't die because it was pure back then. Matter of fact, you'll die from the DTs of alcohol before you die of going off heroin.
Right.
I know one's worse than the other. Heroin's probably a hell of a down going off.
Right.
But people don't die necessarily from that like they do from the DTs or whatever. And so that didn't work. Now we got fentanyl. I mean, one little touch of this. I know a CSP officer that died because he opened the car door and they had it in there and the guy died from it.
Yep.
It's like, and I know I got 2 friends of mine close to me that this lady lost both her sons to fentanyl in the last year.
Wow.
And these guys weren't like drug. They just wanted to get high one night at a party and they ended up dead.
Yep.
So Rhonda's right. That's a way to go ahead and diminish our population is through this opiate that is really a terrible thing.
It is. And then you're right too. They could lock our borders down, Steve, so tight that you couldn't get a fart through and you would still get drugs through.
They're still going
to they're still going to get through. I mean, because they're going to let them through.
Still going to get through. And Rhonda's been working a hospital business for 35 years. Exactly. She'll tell you the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, are you noticing that too, Rhonda? Like in the medical field, like is there fentanyl cases and deaths going up? Like, what are you seeing being on the front line of it? Like, I'm always wondered that.
Cars will just drop a person off and they're in full arrest and we Narcan them, they end up on a ventilator overnight. But if nobody drops them off, they're dead. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can usually get you back, if we get to you in time. But sometimes nobody drives the person to the hospital. Yeah.
Mm.
That's awful. And I mean, so you're definitely seeing an increase with this fentanyl, and I know it's bad
Yeah.
in my area of Canada here. Like it's definitely,
Yeah.
I didn't even like I was very naive at first, thinking that it probably wouldn't make its way here, and boy, did I get an eye opener when I lost 2 friends to fentanyl. Like
Right.
it,
Right.
I was like, okay,
Yeah.
it's
You don't
here,
want
it's
to take any
everywhere.
pills. You'll end up on a ventilator overnight. So
Wow.
you really don't want to take anything from anybody. Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. Like I mean, and you're right too, Stephen, with drinking too. That yeah, like it's way harder to get off of alcohol. That'll kill you. You could die from trying to go off alcohol too quick. You can go off a narcotic quickly, and I'm sure Rhonda will even back me up on this
Yeah.
because I've done a little research. You can go off a narcotic very quickly. You're going to have a rough couple weeks. You're not going to be a happy person, and you, but you're not. It won't kill you.
Yeah, at least you see another day,
Exactly, and I've seen people that had to dry out from alcohol, and they have to go very slow, and
Oh, yeah.
it's a process. Like you just don't cold turkey alcohol. If you're a bad alcoholic, it can kill you, for sure.
Oh, I see a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people die from alcoholism. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and
Because you have to be 6 months clean to get a liver. So
wow, yes.
nobody's getting 6 months clean.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and then I wonder if like even if you are clean for 6 months, I wonder like does that like are you still pretty low on the list, right? Because you know they probably look at it like you destroyed your liver willingly. Do you know what I mean? Like,
No, in Chicago, we have so many gangbangers killing each other. They just put you in the ICU and make you a priority one, and you'll get a liver. They bring people
wow.
from Florida to Chicago because they know they can get the organs because all these gangbangers are killing each other.
So
Really?
Ron, so if somebody's gonna be coded, is if their parts are still good, they'll harvest those parts to save somebody.
All the time. Yep.
Really?
I didn't know that either, Steve.
I didn't know that. I didn't
I
know
used to
that either,
do
Rick.
all the, take them down the cath lab, make sure their heart's right, make sure their liver's right. And the parts usually stay within our facility. At the time, I was working at a big major hospital. The parts never left the hospital. They had people come in and get the organs right there.
Oh
Yeah.
shit! Wow.
That's interesting.
And then when the patient would die, we're like, well, we know whose liver he got. No wonder he died. Yeah. So we would know who the donor was and, who the recipient was. Yeah.
Wow. No kidding.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that either, Stephen.
Oh man, I didn't know. That's why we got her on, Rick. She works in that business, man.
Wow, incredible. Yeah, I'm having a great time. I really thank you guys for joining me, and thank you, Rhonda, for coming on and telling your story, because I mean that's brave to do. I know you probably don't think it is, but it is, to come and tell your story, and I think that it's a story that has to be told as often as you can. And I'm so fortunate that you come on to talk to me, and I'm happy I met you, and I'm happy I met Steve, and I'm learning like so much from him and reading his book and just getting to know him. Amazing, like it really is. And I think that the more you guys talk about this, it's a good thing, because it has to be talked about. And especially if it's still going on in Mariposa, like it's got to be brought to light, or kept in the light anyways. I think it kind of hits the light a little bit every now and then, but they quickly bury it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Incredible. But all right, so I mean, I've kept you. Is there anything you want to say, Steve, or anything before we wrap it up, and then I'll give Rhonda the last word?
Well, yeah, the book, because I'm still trying to do this.
I will show it. I will show it. Let me show my copy too. Hold on.
There you go. No, okay, move it to your left more. I mean, your right. There you go. More. And more. There we go. Okay, cool. It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon.
Yeah.
But I think we ought to we ought to do a podcast. We do Mariposa, and I think we do Philip Marshall.
Yes.
And by the way, I want to say is that yesterday on 2/22/20 that's the anniversary of Philip Haney's death.
You're right.
And Philip Haney was one of the founders of DHS. And they found him up in Amador County, and of course he committed suicide too. You know that, right? So anyway, he just was writing his second book like Philip Marshall was, and they find him dead one county over from Calaveras County. So I think we have to maybe do a Motherlode Gold corruption county thing up there, which relate Rhonda, and we got Yosemite, and we have Tuolumne County and Candler, and we got all this other shit going on, is that even when they killed one of the founders of DHS, and he was coming out that because Obama and Clinton were going after the Muslims just based on their religion and beliefs, for all the terrorist stuff, which is horseshit.
Mm-hmm.
So Philip Haney finds Department of Homeland Security, and then he's found dead. So we have a lot more to cover up in that area up there, Rick.
Sure. Yeah, I'm game.
And Dan Hennon and Greg Fernandez are both on top of that.
Yep, I would
And
love
our
to.
best friend George Cleese. I want to get George Cleese on the air with you with CAVDEF,
Okay.
CAVDEF, and he's the Wikipedia of again, not against the leftists because I don't say that, but he covers the truth about corruption and law enforcement, things like that.
Okay.
So we bring George Cleese on. I think we could have a hell of a 2 or 3 part series.
For sure, I agree. I would love to do that, and I would love to interview him too. So no, that would be great, Stephen. And I am totally game for definitely doing that little series like that with you. I think that'd be great too. And we can have Rhonda on, and we can have Greg on, even like have a bunch of people on, right? Just to kind of like.
Oh yeah, it'd be great.
Exactly.
Now, when I was traveling in Canada, they told me that they don't have the death penalty, but when you do a crime like what I witnessed, you're never seen again. Is that true?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I would have to look into that, but they definitely, yeah, you probably wouldn't be seen again. Like I would think, like they would probably throw you under the jail or something like that. But I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, look at the French guy in the Maxwell in the Giselle Maxwell thing. They just found him hung in his cell.
Yep.
Just like Epstein. You know what? I've been around jails and cops, for on and off my whole life. And you know what? When you have
the cameras broke.
State, or you know what? You got 10 cameras in that cell. There's not a thing. You couldn't hang yourself with tooth floss in there.
Yep.
But this guy's hanging, and so this guy just committed suicide in his cell during this Epstein with Giselle Maxwell. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
It's Ghislaine. I just watched
Ghislaine.
the interview.
Ghislaine's brother. Ghislaine Maxwell. The point is that you know what there's no way they can allow you to hang yourself or whatever. And this guy's dead. Okay.
Right.
There we go.
And what were you gonna say?
He
Rhonda?
was getting ready to testify. He was getting ready to out some people, and they killed him. Yeah.
Well, they all are. She's next. Watch.
She's next. Yeah, the brother.
Stay
They interviewed the
tuned.
brother. He's very worried they're going to kill her. Yeah.
But the reason is you don't go into politics or have Epstein Island or any of this crap unless you got leverage on these politicians or whoever goes there.
Exactly.
Let's just pretend you fly there. It looks like a fantasy island. It's beautiful. The guy owns it. It's a gorgeous place. You go to sleep and they throw 2 14-year-old girls in your bed next to you. You're screwed. You're drunk, whatever it is. They throw 2 girls in there that are underage, and now you got leverage on you. What are you gonna do? You're gonna go with the narrative they want you to, and if you don't, but the thing with Epstein is, I think he's still alive, and he had evidence, and he has leverage on everybody. So
That's true. Yeah.
it's gonna come out. I mean, it's like Charlie Epstein with what's her name? Heidi Fry.
Heidi Fleiss, I think.
Heidi Fleiss. I knew Heidi Fleiss's first cousin. He got the first book Heidi Fleiss wrote. He's a doctor up in Roger Orman, great guy, doctor in Calvert County. He brought the book into my gym, but it didn't mention anybody's name except Charlie Sheen's. Charlie Sheen's a nut, but he didn't rat anybody out. Heidi Fleiss wrote this thing or whatever, and you can pull it up. It's published. But what it is that, you know what? There's bigger powers above her, and nobody wants to die, and so they threatened her life and told her not to do this, and that's what she went with. It's the same thing with the politicians, Epstein, Maxwell, the guy just hung himself. It's all the same thing. The reason Rhonda and I are maybe still alive is because we've been pretty public about this.
Exactly.
And what I told you is when I met with Orb Hatton for the first time, is the reason he survived and was involved in the 2020 thing with Tom Jarrell and Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs. We saw the video. is he told me the best advice is to get a newspaper guy, which was Mike Mooney behind me. And even though, with Hastings and infiltrated Crystal, the general, and you have Gary Webb shots twice in the head, is that, maybe it's going to come, but I think that we're so low on the food chain as far as priority goes for exposure to anything, that they think we don't have the power to do so. We're pretty safe right now.
Right.
Yeah,
I think the more public that you are and the more you're talking about it, is like bringing light to it, and you're in the public eye, is probably a good thing. And I agree with you. And I do think that that'll kind of keep you in a safer light than if you were just not talking about it at all, kind of thing. Because,
Yep.
I mean, I think it's good that you're doing that. I think that was great advice that you got, was to go to the public and kind of keep in the public eye and stuff like that. I think that's a great advice that they gave you. So
Best advice I had in the case, Rick.
Right. And now, Rhonda, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to talk about with the case? Like, is there anything that you want people to know, or do you think you covered everything that you wanted to cover, or what do you think?
Oh, just, kind of a PSA. If you have weird fear and anxiety for no reason, just get out. I tried to outmaneuver them, and they were all involved. I didn't stand a chance. I should have just left.
Right.
And I'm always kicking myself, is why didn't I just leave?
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, but at least you did make it out, right? And I mean, you didn't know back then. You had the gut feeling, but I mean, you still were aware, and you still had that. You still were highly alert, even though you didn't leave right away. You were still highly alert and keeping an eye on things and paying attention. And I think that made all the difference, for sure.
Oh, Rick,
Yeah, these guys were good.
something.
You weren't going to get away, and
Right.
I think, like that guy said, the Lord intervened by putting a deer on the path.
Right.
Well, also, Rick, Rhonda comes from Chicago. It's a tough town. What was it, Rhonda? What's the name of that place? Brindley Green? What was that place?
I lived about 3 blocks from Cabrini Green. It was in full action. They were
Oh, yeah.
sniping
There you
each
go.
other. And I wasn't scared of them. I used to rollerblade right through there like nothing was going on, And everybody thought I was nuts. I said, they're not after me, so I'm not worried,
Exactly.
Yeah,
But in Yosemite, they were
Cabrini
after
Green.
me,
Cabrini Green is like Watts. Okay, if you're white, then that's when I was bounty hunting in the Tenderloin and up in Bayview in San Francisco, and I've had black, and then it's the hood. And the guys would whistle, and I give them a couple bucks to go through, and I wasn't the popo or 5-0 or cops. Is that they relieve you, they give you a break. Rhonda going in as a white chick who's hot. You know what? They must think she's nuts,
Right.
but they don't. She's almost untouchable. But
Right.
Rhonda grew up in Chicago.
they didn't bother me. Yeah.
Yeah, but Rhonda grows up in Chicago and everything else, and she goes to Mariposa, which is bumfuck Egypt.
Right.
I mean, no offense, there's some good people up there, but a lot of these people are ignorant
Right.
hillbillies. And she goes in there. She read that right away when she went in there.
Exactly.
She was aware of her surroundings. She's aware that she could be killed. You could be killed in Chicago in 30 seconds these days, even back then. But she goes in this nice, quaint little town. There's no way they would know how to handle somebody who's street smart like her from Chicago.
Exactly.
Okay? That's how ignorant these people are. It's because Mariposa brings in probably, in Yosemite, more money per summer before all this happened. I mean, I used to go there, and these people rent motorhomes for $5,000 a week from Germany.
Yep.
Okay, there was money going into Yosemite Park. These guys couldn't handle Rhonda. She had her radar up.
Exactly.
She had dirtbag radar up. Anybody came around her, she was suspicious of. That's what saved her and her mom's life.
Exactly. I totally. Yep.
Yeah, she knew her surroundings.
Yep, and that's and I totally agree with what you say, Stephen, that the amount of money that's going through these parks in a season, of course they don't want to stain it and talk about if there's murders going on and stuff like that. They're going to bury them all because, I mean, think of them, if all of a sudden word got out that people were getting murdered in these parks, I mean, they're going to lose a lot of money. And once again, you said, follow the money. Just like that. Just like when, remember Rhonda, Dr. Catherine Wong? Candler was involved in that murder, okay? And there was one newspaper article, and the sheriff comes out when she's missing, and they find her body the day after. I'm just digressing back to our last interview. Okay. As they find Dr. Catherine Wong's body the day after I arrest Candler in Alabama, and Candler lived 30 miles from Bear Valley.
there's
Oh,
one article, and the sheriff says that she was run down. She was a hell of a skier, right? She's a obstetrician out of Santa Clara County. Her husband's a dentist. They're smart. They're smart doctors. And the sheriff comes out in the narrative in a little thin column in the newspaper. I swear to God, the only one that ever showed up. She was chased down by a bear, a mountain lion, or a coyote on skis. I've never heard anybody get chased down by a wild animal on skis. You're doing
they're
30 miles an hour.
hibernating. It was winter time. They're not even out.
Exactly.
That's the other part of it. But that's their narrative, and so it would affect that. Like I said, I would not bring my daughter, and we skied up there. I mean, I taught her to ski at Bear Valley. But if there was a bunch of murders up there and dead bodies all over the slopes, last place I want to go is bring my daughter up there to go skiing.
Exactly.
So when you got a little resort like that and they get a murder or something, I mean, you just lost $1 million that month.
Yep.
I mean, you're out of business.
Yep.
That's what they did in
I was
Yosemite.
really worried about the park losing money. They didn't want me speaking at all. They said the park's losing money.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that but the Yosemite? Now listen, if you look at the numbers, after the Yosemite case, the park did lose money. They didn't lose money, but they made less money.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a fact they did because
That's-
it was a global case.
Yeah,
and
and that's
people
what-
come from everywhere in the world to go to Yosemite. It's
Exactly.
like Yellowstone.
Yep, and that's why they don't want to report these murders, and if they do, they sweep it under the rug really quick because it comes down to
Right.
money. I mean, it's just
That's
the
why.
truth.
That's why with David Pilates in 411, and I think David's a great guy. I was doing some stuff with him. Matter of fact, a couple of years ago with Discovery because they want to do a thing on him, and it didn't work out. But I researched him, and I never talked to him or spoke to him. But is that he is the guy? He's not nuts, and his body count is accurate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's incredible, and I totally agree. I really do. It's always follow the money, Stephen. That's what you've told me. You know what I mean? You just start
Yeah.
following the money and the drugs, and it kind of all, that's what it boils down to. And it's just really sad that there's law enforcement and stuff that are on the take. And I mean, you're not gonna, and I agree, you're not gonna stop it. I mean,
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's a tough haul.
yeah, you're not going to stop the drugs coming in and stuff like that. It's just, it'll never happen. It never has happened, right? So,
It never has. Yeah.
yeah, but all right. I kept you guys quite a while here, actually, so I really thank you. Wow, okay, yeah, we did stay quite a while. That's awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on, and you're always welcome to come back, Rhonda, if you ever want to join us for another conversation, or if you want to talk more about this case. Just let me know, and you're always welcome to come back on.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, it was great. I'm so happy I met you, and thank you for telling your story. I think it's got to be told, and so I really appreciate that. And I thank you, Stephen, for once again, this will be part 3 of our interviews. So, we're rolling along here, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably end up this case pretty soon, but I got to thank Rhonda because without her, there's a lot of part of this investigation that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And that she's so convicted with what she did, and she, and even I haven't talked to Ron. I talk to Ron about once every 6 months, but we go back 20 years for the case, and you know what? She's never changed her tone, man. She's totally believes in everything she did, and her mother, and we go back whatever. But no, I thank her for just coming on with you, Rick, because I wanted people to hear another side of what I was telling people, and Rhonda supported this and that, but when this was no setup, but is that she really, every time I talk to her, I learn something new.
Right. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I've talked. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, definitely. And just before we go, Steve, to let people know about your website and what your website, what your website's about and where they can find it, because I always want to. I think it's a great cause.
I got into the spy camera detection business. It's secretsquirrel007.com, and we're doing pretty well. And there's these cameras that go in bathrooms and Starbucks and Airbnbs and all this stuff, and colleges and locker rooms and fitness centers, and it's gone crazy.
Right.
Is that I just want to tell people, everywhere you go, just look around. Somebody's watching.
Right. Okay. I agree. I think that's a great thing you're doing, because I can imagine, especially with the camera technology getting so small now, that, I mean, they could be anywhere. And then when you were kind of telling me about where people are hiding them and stuff, it makes you really think about, especially, I don't think I could ever stay at a hotel or anything now without being totally paranoid that I'm definitely being camera watched by something because I mean, yeah, it's incredible.
Terrible.
So yeah, so I'll make sure I leave a link in the description for where they can pick up your book, Stephen. I definitely recommend, as I do every time we talk, to get this book. It's an amazing read. And I'll also leave a link to your website in case somebody wants to contact you about seeing hidden cameras or get some help from you with that. So definitely I will do that in the description.
Oh, hey, thanks, my brother. It always helps.
All right, thank you. So you guys have a great evening and take care. And then we'll definitely do this again, and I'll have you back on the show, and we can
Okay.
discuss some more things. So thank you so much, both you, Steve, and you, Rhonda, for being here tonight.
All right, brother.
All right.
Talk to you later, man.
All right, take care, guys.
You too.
You.
Well, there we have it, guys. I'm telling you, I always say that. We always wrap up with a great from a great interview. There we go. I had to turn that down. The light from my screen just hit me like it was so bright. But what an incredible interview for me tonight to hear this. Like I'm so thankful for Rhonda coming on and telling her side of the story. Like it's just crazy. Like what she went through, and that they actually tried to kidnap her. I mean, and her mother. And it just, I wanted you guys to actually hear, like Steven said, we got Steven's side from from chasing these guys down and investigating them. But it's very rarely that you can actually talk to somebody that was a victim of something like this. And so when Steven said that Rhonda would come on and do an interview with us, I really was excited to do this interview, because it's not often I get, you get to talk to somebody that went through something like this. And I just so thankful that, they didn't get her, and that she was smart enough to be aware, and her mom was smart enough to be aware right from the start that something was off. And I think that's what saved her life, was just, being aware of what the people around her and the people around them and the environment and stuff like that. I think that a lot of people, they're so busy on their phones and stuff like that they're just not paying attention. And like Steven said, you have to be, and even Rhonda said, you have to be aware of your surroundings. So, I mean, when I didn't hear about the whole in the woods in Campbell and stuff like that till just now, like with you guys. And I'm just like, wow, like this case is crazy. And wow, I'm just so happy that, she managed to get away, her and her mother. So, and just like, what do you guys think of this case? I mean, you guys this will be the, I guess the third full interview. I did that little bonus clip where we went over the cartoons and that, but I would definitely like to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments about this case, and what Rhonda went through and stuff, because, I mean, I think about this case a lot now, just how deep it goes, and what, the corruption and stuff like that. It just makes you really sit back and think. So I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this case. And like I said, thank you, Stephen, Mr. Sanzeri, and thank you, Rhonda Dunn, for taking the time to come and talk to all of us and, inform us about what, your side of the story, what you went through, and your experience in that. I think I super appreciate that, and very grateful. And before I go, just to let everyone know, I kind of mentioned it at the beginning, but if you do want to see a different side, like a radio, go to, like a radio side, no video, just old school radio, which I love. I was raised on old school radio, as I was saying. And so definitely go to freedomslips.com and Revolution Radio. So Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And I'm on twice a week. I'm on Saturday evenings, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m., and you got to go to Studio B. And then on Monday evenings, I'm on from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m., so it's a 2-hour show. That's Studio A, and it's obviously, for me, Eastern Standard Time. So, I mean, I got two great shows on. There's a lot of great hosts on there doing amazing content, pretty much 24/7. There's something going on, and amazing interviews going on, and it's all what I love about is listener supported. So definitely go check it out, and check out all the different hosts and the different shows, and become a supporter of it, because I mean, free speech is not in good shape a lot of the time, and a lot of people on this platform especially know that. And we have to support places that are allowing free speech. And so, check it out. I think you guys are going to love the content there. And if, you do enjoy it, consider maybe making a small donation, maybe becoming a Patreon and supporting a channel that, like a station that does support free speech and allows that to happen. I think it's a great cause. So just want to let you guys know that. And also let everybody know that I am now on Rumble. So if you can go check that out, you just go to Crypt Ricks I've Been Thinking. It's all one word. So Crypt Ricks I've Been Thinking, all one word. And check it out there. I got a video with Russ Tanner on there, which is really cool. So if you guys want to check that out. And I still have a lot of, I've been doing interviews like a lot in the last couple of weeks. So I do got a lot of stuff to put up. There's going to be a lot of great new guests coming on. I've already shot a lot of great interviews. So that is going to be a lot of fun because I got a lot of different topics that we'll be discussing on a lot of cool guests. So, and trying to think if there's anything else I got to cover. I also going to start doing on this channel. I want to start doing a review once a week on a different band or album, music. Just something that like I already did one on Meatloaf, and we talked about the album "Bad Outta Hell," which was a huge turning point in my taste in music and that when I was younger when I first heard that album. So I'm going to do that once a week. I'm going to try to make it because I do long interviews. I know that most of them are 2 hours, some are even longer. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to do like a short little, well, short for me anyways, a short little 15-minute video where I just talk about a band or an album or a song or something like that that really made a difference in my life or influenced my taste in music or the direction I went with music. So I think that'd be really cool. So I'm going to try to do that once a week. I'm going to be shooting one actually right after I do this and wrap this up. I'm going to go and do my next band. So definitely look forward to that. It should be up in a couple days. And give me your input. And if you guys want me to review a band or anything like that, shoot me an email and just ask me. And if I have the album or I know about the band. I mean, I can't do it on everything because I don't know a lot about rap and stuff like that, right? So you just kind of got to be in the hard rock, heavy metal, 80s metal kind of vein or something like that. And chances are I'm going to know who you guys are talking about. So just shoot me an email. Just beenthinkingpodcast@gmail.com. And just leave me an email. Let me know what bands you want me to talk about and what they mean to me and how they influence my taste in music or if I like them or anything like that. Just let me know the name of the band or the song or whatever, and I'll definitely check it out. I mean, I think that'll be a lot of fun and get you guys kind of involved too. And I might even learn something about some new bands and that because as I try to tell people, I'm always looking for new bands and music to listen to, but the newer stuff that I'm running into has not been good, at least not for me. It's not something that the kind of style of music that I like, but I did start listening to Unleash the Archers, which I love that band. Found out that they're Canadian, and which shocked me actually. I didn't really know that because I just, as I said, started listening to them. So really like that band. And I mean, they're not super new, but they're new. For me, they're definitely new. And I love that band. So maybe, there is hope. There is good music out there. I've just got to get people to, kind of point me in the right direction. And this was recommended to me by a friend. They said, check out this band. So I started listening to it. And I really do enjoy that music and I enjoy that band. So any suggestions, leave it in the comments. And let me know if there's any bands out there that you think I would like or you want me to check out. And I'm game for that because I'm always looking for new bands to listen to and to see, what's going on in the kind of the new hard rock and metal music scene. So always welcome to suggestions. So that's great if you guys could do that for me. And if you're having fun with my channel here, please, I always say at the end, like, share, subscribe. Definitely help me out here by, getting me some thumbs up and stuff like that and getting some more subscribers. I think that'll be really cool if I can once I get up to a certain number, I would like to start doing more, like start diving into live videos and maybe going live once in a while and talking to you guys. But I'm not going to do that till I have a decent amount of people that are subscribed to my channel. I mean, I don't think it'd be fun if I just do a live and I got like 2 people on there, 1 person, nobody. I mean, that's not going to be very fun for me. I would rather interact with people live. So once I get a certain number, I kind of got a number in my head. Like once I get that many subs and stuff, then I'll definitely start. I would love to start doing live, and we can talk about all different kinds of things, any different topic you guys want to cover. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So looking forward to doing that, and hopefully you guys will be enjoy being part of that and coming and listening and giving me your input, stuff like that. I think it'd be really cool. I like to kind of hear what you guys' thoughts on music and what's going on in the world and all this crazy stuff, because I tell you the world has gone crazy in my eyes in a lot of aspects. So, but what can I do? I mean, doing my best, but But enough babbling from me. I always do that at the end. I always say before I do a video, I'm not going to talk too much at the end, and I always end up doing that. So, sorry guys, but just like to chat a little bit at the end after a great interview. So, you guys, everybody who's listening, please stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. Take care. Take care of each other. And peace. And you guys will be seeing another interview very shortly on my channel. I got lots of great interviews coming up. So, and remember, I say this at the end of every show. Everybody's got an amazing story to tell. And everybody's got an amazing story. Why? Because it's your unique story. And that is what makes it interesting, especially to me. So take care, guys. Have yourself a great day, great evening. Look forward to you talking to you next interview. Take care, guys.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mysteries, cryptocurrency, and thought-provoking interviews? Then check out Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking on YouTube, or every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Studio A at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Welcome to the Crypt.